guys, it's Bobby Roast Beef, man. We have another episode of Jigs and Bigs here for you to enjoy, to listen to all this good fishy and fishy adjacent content. We got some good stuff to talk about this week. In the beef seat, we've got the one and only Jimmy Lee. You probably know him a little bit better as Raw Fishing. Now, Jimmy and I have one major thing in common. Aside from being East Coast anglers, we're really into bait finesse, and we're going to dive into that today. And he shares some really good stuff. And he also shares a really, really tragic story, too. And it kind of came from out of nowhere, too. So pretty amazing. You're going to want to check that out. We also have a real big conversation to be had this week about staying hydrated on the water, taking care of your body. You can't fish if you can't physically make it happen. So how do you make sure that you're still functional when you're on the water, especially when it's crazy hot and the sun is quite literally trying to kill you? We're going to talk about dehydration and some tips, things that you can do to make things kind of happen as you need them. And we have a bunch of stuff in the live well this week, guys. It's gonna just a whole big old hoedown. You are not going to want to miss any of this show, so grab yourself something delicious to enjoy. More Jigs and Bigs goodness coming up right after this. Crack them if they're cold, boys. It is a Monday morning. It is a sweltering Monday morning as I record this here in the Disco Dungeon. I'm getting a little bit of relief because I'm down here where it's so friggin' cold. But man, I'll tell you what, it has been a week. It has been a crazy, crazy week. But before we dive into my week of what's been going on, we got a couple of jig heads here. We are glad to have you folks in the house with us, jig heads. Some of you that have already jumped into the chat have been talking. We got Dave Urkey, the Wolf of Walmart, all the way out on the West Coast, tuned in right now to the show recording, checking this out. We got Eli Self in here. You're going to hear some stuff specifically from Eli on the show, of course, in the live well. But in just the tip, he shares a story regarding the importance of staying hydrated. And I'm going to give you some really, really solid tips. And this actually lines up and ties in with Dave Urkey, because Dave had hooked me up with a specific product, and we'll find out about this, that I had inquired about, and I am amazed with. And in my weekly recap, it played a role, and I was pleasantly surprised with the way this worked out. So stay tuned. Just the tip coming up later. We also have Brandon White with us. Brandon, you hear from on occasion in the live well as well. We still need to get a date on the calendar to do a Jersey send. It's got to happen. But as summer starts to kind of wind down, I think things are actually going to get a little bit more easier to dial. This is about the last couple of weeks where things are just bananas. I have a new trivia account that's popping off. I have a wedding coming up. I haven't had a wedding in since October, and that is like a big series of events that are now earmarked on the calendar. A bunch of folks reaching out and inquiring about their available dates, and I've got those dates available. Imagine, so we're good to go. And then we have a couple other jig heads in here that haven't chimed in the chat yet, but let's talk. Welcome to Jigs and Bigs. Let's talk about what Jigs and Bigs is all about. First and foremost, guys, Jigs and Bigs is a fishing podcast. It's probably how you stumbled on us right here, but we are a very unique fishing podcast. Jigs and Bigs is more of that more comfortable morning show style of long form audio based entertainment. So you can listen to this show and enjoy it. And if you're of what we like to call the fishy folk, you're going to 100% love what we have laid out for you. Yeah, of course we talk about fishing. Of course we're going to give you some tips as long as we have them, and we're also going to share celebrate some victories, and I'll also kind of sulk a little bit when it's pretty tough, and up here we really don't like the winter. We really don't. But every single week you have a brand new episode. It drops. It's available on every single podcast platform under the sun that you really care about, and that's every Tuesday morning. It's a long form show, so these shows go upwards of like 3 to 4 hours sometimes, and we like to feature guests anytime that we can. We've had folks from every corner of the world really regarding fishing on on this show, whether they're your bass fishing tournament guys, whether they're just an absolute noob getting started that's just ate up with like the technique and the lifestyle, everything else like that. What is this lifestyle? Whether it's someone who's into fishing the salt, someone that specifically fishes with flies or large swim baits, regardless of where you fit into the fishy family, there's a spot for you at Jigs and Bigs. And part of that is our relationship with our jig heads. You heard me mention them earlier. And our jig heads are our patron subscribers that get a link to the live stream recording of this show. See, normally it is myself, Bobby Roast Beef, your host, and my esteemed co-host. Normally it would be, who the fuck is Joe Brown to be in the house with us? And Joe is, unfortunately, he's away for a little bit. He's got some shit he's got to deal with. And in fact, last week we heard from him. A bunch of you guys had reached out and asked, hey, is Joe all right? What's going on? And Joe on American Vet Fishing on Instagram, he dropped a reel kind of explaining a little bit about what's up and everything. So go ahead, check that out. But Joe is good. He's going to be back. It's all good stuff. But normally it's the two of us. But the jig heads are, they get the exclusive as we record this, and they're able to chime in and provide some feedback. And it's sort of like breaking that wall in between like the production of creating this podcast and actually being involved as it's being created and playing an active role in it. It's pretty cool. And we've met a bunch of jig heads. We've done events with our jig heads, fished with our jig heads, like all kinds of stuff. So it's a very tight-knit group, and we appreciate them very, very much. Give them a little bit of applause. We have to. All kinds of really, really good stuff. Of course, you can go to jigsandbigs.com. That's like sort of your central location for everything that is Jigs and Bigs goodness. So if you're looking for, you're like, I really like this podcast. I'd like to rock a sticker on my boat or on my car or my kayak or whatever. You can go to jigsandbigs.com. You can get all kinds of merch there, from like hats to shirts to hoodies. There is even actual specific Bobby Roast Beef merch that's available for you as well. All of that under one store, all kinds of good stuff. I did get an update. There were a couple of items, like specific items. I want to say a couple of different colors of the tie-dye logo t-shirts are not available, but there are some others. One of our other, I think probably the most popular thing that has been getting picked up recently is we have a Jigs and Bigs logo magnet for your car. And this thing, I bought one like 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, and I put it on the back of my truck, and it has stayed like through car washes, through torrential rain, through highway travel, like through all, you name it, and it has stayed put. So if you want to throw something on that you can remove from time to time, or mix up the location of where you want it on your vehicle or whatever, that's a good option for you right there. And our stickers are available in 3 different sizes. You can get small, medium, and large. It's pretty cool. So there's that right there. But also at jigsandbigs.com, you will realize that we have a bunch of partners over there that we work with that are very, very amazing and very supportive of what we do. Primarily Dark Horse Tackle, Omnia Fishing, A-Bay Lure Lab, Reaction Tackle. The list goes on. There's a bunch of partners that we work with that are just absolutely fantastic. And I mentioned the fishing lifestyle. We've even got some links, and if you check the notes in the podcast specifically, you can save some money if you want to upgrade your fish whistle experience. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you're not cool. You don't have to worry about it. It's fine. But if you do know what I'm talking about,
you get yourself a Yeti bong. We'll be good to go.
I'm just saying. Oh, and I can't forget the newest affiliation that we've got is with ARC. If you want to save 10% on your whether you're buying rods, reels, or lures, a lot of people forget that ARC has really, really good hard baits. You can save 10% right over there at arcrods.com and use the code Jigs and Bigs. It's pretty badass. You're going to hear a lot about ARC in this week's show because we got the one and only Jimmy Lee in the beef seat. And Jimmy, you might know him better as Rar Fishing. Jimmy is a good dude. Man, I've gotten the chance to talk to him. He is a good dude. Jigs and Bigs SPF shirt? No, Eli. No Jigs and Bigs performance gear, because none of our shops that we work with carry them, and everybody we've crossed paths with, they don't drop ship them. So it makes it really, really inconvenient to do all this stuff. It's crazy. The Wolf of Walmart says, "Oh, saved Andy's wife a stack of money on a new BFS complete." Dude, I'm telling you, and like the Bass Finesse rods that they have are out of this world. They really, really are. Eli says it needs to happen. Yeah, if I look, I usually look like every like 6 months or so, and I look around at different stores. And then I'll find somebody that's like, "Oh, of course we can do your custom design," but I just don't know the best time to do that. Like, I could do pre-orders. There are things that I could do, but it's a pain in the ass. It really is. The only shirt I wear, kayak, so I don't get burnt like a lobster. Dude, I'm the same way. I wear sun shirts all the time. Actually, a lot of people don't know this about Bobby Roast Beef. I'm allergic to the cold. Did you know that? Yeah, I'm allergic to the cold. If I'm like really cold, like enough to like get the chills, like for an extended period of time, like I'll get hives in whatever area is exposed to the cold. It's obnoxious. And those sun shirts actually kind of help me like regulate my temperature quite a bit better, which is kind of nice. It's good stuff, Eli. Your hair is the color of a lobster. My God. All right, so you should also know that Jigs and Bigs is a YouTube channel. And yes, the podcast every single week does drop on YouTube. The full audio-only podcast with the interview and everything is right there for you to check out on YouTube. But the Jigs and Bigs YouTube channel has some high-quality stuff on there. In fact, I think it was last Thursday, I dropped a video from last Monday, and that's how we'll start our week. I had fished last Monday, and I just had an absolute banger of a day. Man, there's no other way to put it. It was an absolutely amazing day. I went and I fished. This was, I know I talked about it last week, but the video came out freaking unbelievable, man. It really, really did come out great. And it was one of those things, I made a joke that I was going out fishing for content. A la Bait and Bougie, Jose Senko. We had him on the show a few weeks back. I had gone through this whole sort of conversation in my head about like I really should have recorded when I went out on Saturday, but I opted not to, like a dumbass. And here I am. You know, it just is what it is. I went out and I had just an absolute amazing day. I had a great bag for the entire day. It was just pretty badass. And the lure that really put in some work was a lure that I've been talking about really all week, is the Battle Baits minigun. Now, the minigun is great, but essentially what the minigun is, it's like a heavy-duty finesse spinnerbait. It's a single willow blade, real compact size, you know what I'm saying? But you can still get it in, like, the one I was throwing was a 1/2 ounce with a 3/0 heavy-duty hook. And you can downsize when the fish are a little bit more finicky and they're not chasing, you know, they're more keyed maybe to a specific size profile. And it kind of helps you get that done, but you can jack these fish. And it was the butcher had reached out and he was like, "I'm pretty impressed with that thing, man. You put in some decent fish in the boat." And that didn't bend out. Like it was in good shape, you know, the entire day. Well, Monday was awesome. The video came out fantastic. It went live on Thursday. I didn't get back out on the water until Wednesday, and I fished a different section of the Connecticut River area. In fact, I fished a section of the Connecticut River that's a favorite of American Vet Fishing, a favorite of Who the Fuck is Joe Brown. And this is my first time ever getting up there. I know that there is a tournament that Topless Timmy Jakes had asked me about going and checking this spot out with him, and I said I'm definitely down. You know, he's fished it a bunch previously, but he's got a tournament coming up, wanting to do a little bit of pre-fishing there. So we kind of got sidetracked. Like there was an area he kind of wanted to focus on, and I was like, all right, we'll go for it, man. It's all good. But he's like, there's a couple of flats where I think we're going to get on some smallies pretty good. So we started out that we got on the boat, we headed upriver a good ways. And again, this is like my first interaction here. This is pretty badass. We found this one spot that looked good. We found some grass, and I started out actually throwing that minigun initially. Didn't have any bites. I think Tim hooked up pretty soon afterwards. I had switched and downsized a little bit to more of a finesse, like a paddle tail, and I started ripping that around. I think my first fish was a rock bass, and it was a pretty burly rock bass. It was actually a good size rock bass. So I'm not too upset about that. that's fine. I get that fish in the boat. Everything's cool. We fish for a little bit more there. There's no other bites to be had. He's like, well, let's go up a little bit further. He's like, there's these 2 flats that I think are going to pay off. Let's go check them out. We got up there, and I just laid into a bunch of smallmouth, man. A bunch of them. And I was throwing around a little 3-inch swim bait, and was just, boom. I put probably 5 or 6 up in that area on the boat. Man, maybe even more than that, to tell you the truth. And we fished both of these flats, did okay. Tim kind of struggled a little bit. This is the first time ever that I put more fish in the boat than topless Timmy Jakes. And I don't know how to feel about that. It was very, very crazy. So we, on our way back, we found this train bridge that just looked juicy as hell with all this submerged wood. And over by this point, I was throwing around like a Ned-rigged like creature bait, a little mini D-bomb. And this thing was just getting crazy. Eli asked me a question. He goes, do you fish the minigun skirted or naked? I have both. In both of these instances, I was throwing the one with the skirt. I've got the minigun commando as well, and I'm prepared to throw that sucker if need be. In fact, I got to tell you guys, and I've said this to a number of people who've reached out this week that are interested in getting their hands on the minigun, and to that I say,
good luck. Good luck.
There was an email I put out on the website. They're all just sold out, and I took and I put there's when the ones that specifically are sold out, there's a notify me feature. So I put one in there. I got an email within a day, and then I saw a post on Instagram from BattleBait saying like, oh, we just reloaded a bunch of different miniguns in these few colors. One of them was one that I wanted. That post, when I saw it, was 4 hours. It was only on for 4 hours. They were sold out by the time I got to them. So, like, if you are looking for these baits, you need to stalk their website. There's just no other way. Yeah, Eli, sign up for the alert. That's exactly what I did, and I never got the email from it. I saw that post before I got the email. So I mean, I was actually at trivia in a break, and I often grab my phone in a break after the next round is set up, and I'm flipping through, and I see the BattleBaits post, and I'm just like, oh, the miniguns are back, and let's go to the store and look. And I look for the size I'm looking for and the color I'm looking for. Already sold out. It is what it is. Eli says, what's the trailer then? You're talking about on the skirted one? I was using a curly tail grub. A curly tail grub with a little bit of spike it on that tail. Just gives it a nice, tight little wobble. Wolf Walmart says BattleBaits drops every Friday. Yep, well, this was Friday. It was Friday when I looked. So, all right, well, now I know. I have the next couple of Fridays off. No trivia that night. So that means I'll be able to, about that time, because BattleBaits is located in the Midwest, right? I want to say they're somewhere in the Midwest. I'm not 100% sure. But that's good to know that they drop every single Friday. I was not aware of that. That's good to know. 7 p.m. his time. All right, yeah. Yeah, so that lines up pretty much perfectly. Bobby R. EST, Eastern Standard Time. I'm Eastern Standard Time, yeah. What do we got? It's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard. Yeah, that makes sense. Because I had a feeling he was in the Midwest. Anyway, I had absolutely just had a blast fishing with Tim. It was absolutely awesome. I caught a couple off of some of this wood with this Ned. Nothing like of quality. Like these were all relatively small smallies. Like all probably in like the 10 to 12 inch window, something like that. Not huge, but fun. Unlike gear, definitely a lot of fun. We got into this one specific cove where it was a totally different situation. It was a bit of a good flat, but there was a ton of vegetation. So you had these little tufts of pads that would group up, and I was like, well, I'm gonna throw the minigun because this was the pattern that was working, was around submerged grass. So I'm like, I'm gonna try and run it like through these bits of pads. First cast I get down there, and I put in the first big fish in the boat, and it was a smallie right in between some of these pads where the drop off would be, where the channel to the river goes in. And this fish just absolutely smoked my spinnerbait. It was absolutely bananas. So I struggled for a little bit trying to get bit. We fished a couple other areas in here. We found some wood off to the bank, or that came off of the bank that we fished a little bit. Nothing on. I know Tim was throwing topwater quite a bit in this area, and not so much as a sniff. But we would see many fish actually hitting the surface. And he's just like, I can't believe this is getting bit. And he's tried a number of techniques. I think most of what he was catching on while he was out there was honestly like a Senko. I think that was what was getting the most bites for him. I ended up catching one other one, a largemouth. It was on that minigun. It was the only largemouth of the entire day. And this thing, it just absolutely crushed that friggin' minigun. Absolutely just destroyed it. Decent fish. Released him. I did kind of get vibes in this area that maybe moving a rat slowly in and around these alleys that were created in between little groupings of pads, and nothing happened there. It got to be about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was like, I've got some shit I got to do, man, so I'm gonna bounce. So I took off. Tim fished for like another hour or two. He had a pretty good one, and couldn't complain. I actually saw him on Friday at Trivia and got the full breakdown of everything. He caught a couple more in there, so it'll be interesting. But I got to tell you, like, I hear Joe talk about this area a lot, and I kind of can understand why he likes it, because it can offer a little bit of everything. Like, if you like fishing grass, there's areas where you're going to find some grass. If you're looking for wood or for rocks, there's areas and you're going to find it. And it's not like going on this river system and going for like a county away, or something like that. Like, you're going to be in an area that realistically within a run of about 20, 25 minutes, you're going to be in an area that you're going to find what you're looking for. It's pretty cool. So I'm going to be going back there. I actually would probably go back there sometime this week, but my boat is in New Hampshire right now, and I am not. I am at home. So let me explain what the hell is going on here. This is the week that my family is up at Lake Winnipesaukee, and there's a beautiful lake house that we're up there. We decided, my sister and I, we took my parents out to celebrate on a trip for their 50th wedding anniversary. Their wedding anniversary was in May. Congrats, Mom and Dad. 50 years is a big deal. And they are all up there right now. Now, I'm going to be quite honest with you. I am not up there right now, quite simply because I can't afford to take the time off, is what it gets down to. I know. I can't afford to take the time off, so I made a decision to basically go up on Saturday, and this brings me to the last 2 outings of my week. I went up to fish a lake nearby where we were staying. Actually, it's the lake we initially wanted to stay on. And I got to be honest with you guys, this lake I was originally told was the better wreck boat situation in comparison to Winnipesaukee. Winnipesaukee has a reputation, I would say, of being a more of a party lake. Like, a lot of recreation happens there, all kinds of stuff. It's very touristy. It fishes great. I mean, I've heard some people have really great results when they go up there and fish, but you are absolutely in the wreck boaters world up there. And I was told from some folks that fishing this other lake, the fishing is a little bit better and the wreck boat traffic is less. Well, I went on Saturday, guys. I got to tell you, so I left my house at 4 a.m., had all my gear ready to go. Everything was good. I drive all the way up. I get to this lake. I'm at the launch. And the public launch was absolutely great. Like, super efficient. They had a lake host there directing traffic. I get staged. I drop the boat. I get out there. I start fishing. And the first thing I caught was a small rock bass on a finesse swim bait. There was a tiny little group of docks. I don't even want to say the word marina, because I don't think this was like legitimately a marina. It was like 3 docks that came out that had slips on each side, and that was it. And it was actually on the last edge of that group of docks, right up in the corner, real shallow. I found this one rock bass, small rock bass, and I thought I got a good laugh because That's another thing that Winnipesaukee has a reputation of, is no shortage of rock bass at all. So, but I like rock bass, especially fishing with the bait finesse gear. They are so much fun, so much fun. And I was primarily out to target smallmouth, and I was, I had a feeling that they were going to be a little bit deeper. So what I was looking for was like a transition edge, and what I was actually looking for, I found it. I found this drop off where we went to deeper water, but we had weeds that came out. And I found that wall, and I'm like, this is just going to be great. And I'm making some casts up and down, and I'm basically just, the water was so clear, I could see that edge of weeds clearly, and I had the boat right up on top of it. And what I was doing is making 45-degree casts out, letting it drop, and then spool back in, and then just reel it back in. And I saw a couple of fish, like, kind of like following. I got a couple of like legit follows where they were like nose up to it following. And I was like, there's nothing going on. I saw something big kind of flash in the water. And I would say it looked like it might be the biggest white perch I've ever come across. It just went broadside down, and I could see the sunlight kind of flash up against it because they're pretty shiny, pretty reflective. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. This is nuts. Nothing. So I'm like, well, let's go ahead, and I follow this wall of weeds all the way down to the end, and it starts to get really shallow again, and there's a beach, and there's some what seems like old docks with some vertical structure out in the water. And I'm like, oh, we'll go ahead, we'll work this way, we'll figure it all out. And now I'm up along this one rocky edge that reminds me of this other spot I fished in New Hampshire. And I'm like, oh God, here we go. I'll bet you I got to find him. I got to find him deep. So I'm kind of focusing on that. And out of just like not getting a single bite deep at all, I'm like, I'm just going to make a cast because we got some shade coming from the tree line over here. The sun wasn't up too high, so we had a nice little shade line that extended out on the water. I make a cast into this rocky area up there, and as the bait hits the water, I lay into a
16.5-inch smallmouth.
A 16.5-inch smallie. And I'm like, you got to be shitting me. This is freaking insane. I bring this fish in. I'm like, all right, this is pretty badass. I was like, totally not where I was anticipating on getting a quality bite. I figured if I was going to get anything shallow, it would be wherever. But I'm like, maybe there's something to that shade. So I kept following that transition point where to my right-hand side, I had the deeper water. On my left-hand side, I could cast up shallow and get into those shadows. So that's what I did. I followed that pattern around. I'm flipping this around. I'm flipping that around. And I caught one more really smallmouth. And then I struggled for like about 3 hours. And during this like 3-hour window, there were no bites, but there were more and more and more and more wreck boats. If I looked at any direction in the lake aside from the bank, in my field of vision, there were at least 4 to 6 wreck boats as far as I could see. And it was absolute pandemonium. I was like a cork. It got to the point where I was just like, I'm putting my chair up on the casting deck so that number one, I can lean against it. But number two, I'm like, I am just bouncing all over the place. I'm going to sit down. So I make my way around to this one area. And, you fish these rocky areas, you get caught up in a lot of stuff. And I'm getting this jig hung up in some places. I'll go back and retrieve it. A couple of them I wasn't able to get necessarily. So I head out to this one point. I follow it out to this one point, and I'm like, again, the sun is killing me. I know I'm dehydrated. I had taken a dive into an element that a chili mango flavor element that I added to one of my Nalgene bottles of water, and I got to tell you, man, it helped big time. I'm a big proponent in using and adding minerals and adding sodium to your water to increase what you're doing. And this can be done in a bunch of different ways. You can do it with food, but what's nice is the ability to put X amount number of milligrams of sodium in you quicker than, just having to eat like a pound of beef jerky or whatever. You know what I mean? So there are different ways that you can do it. We'll talk about it, but I'll tell you what, man, that flavor, I had a feeling I was going to like that flavor. I didn't know I was going to like that flavor that much. It's a thing, Dave. It's a thing, and I felt unbelievably better about being in the heat like that. It was just great. So I was just had that up with me. I was just nursing it all day. I did crack into a couple of ice cold Diet Cokes because when you're real hot, man, a good cold crisp Diet Coke. Wow, it had to happen. So I'm battling and as I come around to this point, I'm now out of this main cove that I was fishing, and I'm more in the main lake. And this is where it was like Beirut for boats. It was just insane. And I felt so bad for the people in kayaks over there that are paddling. I'm like, you guys are nuts. You didn't sign up for whitewater. What is even happening here? So he goes, I am going to, so I made the decision that I was going to go out and I was going to make a few casts out deep and see what we could come up with. I had already fished, and actually this direction, there was no shadows. There was no shade line coming out on the water because at this point the sun was just blasting right at those trees, right overhead, because there was in a different part of the lake. So I'm doing my thing. And I make a couple of casts, and I hook into a big. I wasn't much bigger than that first one, though, or it wasn't much bigger than that first smallmouth. It was 16 3/4, but came from probably about 30 foot. And I was throwing. This was also on that finesse swim bait, as a matter of fact. And it was just one of those things where I just have to let it go on the bottom and then just give it a crank, let it come off the bottom. And just hope. And out that far, I was lucky that I apparently the rocks had stayed close to the bank, and where I was, I had some kind of soft bottom or sand or something because I had no real issues. I hook into this fish. I'm stoked, and I'm looking at the time, and I got to meet my family at the Airbnb, or at the Verbo rather. And I'm like, all right, so I'm only about 15 minutes away. So I'm going to go load up now, take my time, get everything together, and I'll go there. Well, of course, who gets there? I'm the first one there. I'm not the point of contact. So I pull in, and I find the place. First off, the place that we're staying is absolutely beautiful. There is a boat launch right next door. And I'm initially I was I might not even drop my boat in Winnipesaukee. I might go to other lakes, and just do it that way. Well, as I come in, the owner of the property that we're renting is there, and he and I are having a conversation. He's like, oh yeah, he's like, they never said you were bringing a boat, and I'm like, oh, well, she should have because she was the one that was in charge. So I explained to him. He's like, here's what I'm going to do. He goes, I'm gonna give you my pass, so that'll allow you to use the launch that's right there. He's like, but there's no trailer parking, which let's just talk about that for a second. No trailer parking at a parking lot for launching boats. It just seems insane to me. So he goes, what you're going to have to do is launch the boat and then bring the truck over here. And he goes, park in this area and take the trailer off and put the trailer in this specific spot. I was like, all right, that works, which is kind of nice because I knew I was going to be coming back for Sunday night for trivia, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I'll be going back late Wednesday. I'll be heading up on Thursday, or I'll be out fishing on Thursday. So I'm going to go up late Wednesday night after trivia. And I tell him, I was like, all right, that works. Well, what's nice about this property is there's a beach with a nice gazebo that's right next to the water and a dock that comes right off that gazebo and goes out. He's like, yeah, you can tie your boat off right there. He goes, in fact, what I would do, because there's some folks that utilize that dock that rent space from it for their boats. He goes, just beach it and tie it off right here. He's got a post right there. So we're good to go. So I left my boat up there so that my dad can go and fish whenever the hell he wants. And we're in a very, very small cove. And sure, there's wreck boats, but most of the wreck boats are not in that cove to recreate. They're coming from marinas and they're going out to the main lake. So it's really tight. Well, as it would happen to work out, after we get everything all set, that first night, that was Saturday night, we all had this awesome dinner. It was great. My dad did this shrimp boil. So up there, staying there, it's myself and my two kids, my oldest girlfriend, my sister, her two kids, and her niece, and my parents. And there's going to be my nephew's going to have a friend that's coming up later. And I know you guys are like, well, how come Queen Beef isn't there?
That's a long fucking story.
And we're not going to have that conversation here because it's going to send me into a fit of rage, and I will have to call my therapist. That's how it works. But yeah, so she is down here with the dogs, is what's going on, and nobody from Camp Beef is exactly happy with it, but we're getting by. We're getting by. So. We have a great night, and I tell my dad, I was like, listen, I go, if you want to fish in the morning, I was like, I'm going to be here until like maybe lunchtime, and then I'm going to hit the road because I got to get back. I want to have trivia ready and all that stuff, and I don't want to have to rush. And initially, I want to say this too. I wanted to make it back in time to record the podcast yesterday with Jay Manning. Jay Manning was on deck to be guest co-host. Now, I do want to say I appreciate you guys, saying like, especially while Joe is like handling his shit. I get that, man. And I get that you guys want to help out and guest co-host and stuff, but I'm telling you, the scheduling for it is a nightmare. And as it would turn out with Jay, he had a little bit of an emergency that kind of popped up. Hope everything, Jay, is cool with that. So he ended up having to bail earlier in the day, and I appreciate actually it was early enough in the day where he was like, man, I don't think this is going to happen. So it was a good call. You know what I mean? And it was, I'm glad it worked out. So that's why we're here doing this today. Know this, guys. Jigs and Bigs is never just going to leave you without some kind of an episode. It's been over 5 years we've been producing this show. Nobody is going to, leave some kind of a lapse after going so long without one, which amazes me, by the way. The fact that this has managed to happen every single week for over 5 years, it blows my mind. But, so here we are recording today. That brings us to today. But my dad and I got up nice and early. I had gone out. I took the girls out for ice cream the night before, and we had a great time. We were over at Weir Beach. It's just... when I say it's a party lake, dude, it is a place for like recreation, 100%. It's amazing. It's a great lake. It really is. It's a fantastic lake. So my dad and I get up each at like 5 o'clock, make a pot of coffee, and it's nice because the boat's just right there. So I go out that day and I'm like, I have just, I kind of looked at some resources, kind of knew what we were dealing with as far as structure goes. We had a little bit of depth. Nothing crazy. I mean, I think we had up to like 16 feet in that cove, and I'm looking at what's available, and I'm like, I'm just gonna grab a couple BFS rods, and I get out there, and get on the boat, and my dad, we just start pulling away from the beach, and we're out there, and he's like, son of a bitch. In fact, we get to the first spot, which was not far from the beach at all. And I just put the trolling motor down. He's like, I forgot my worms. He's got this worm farm in the fridge. He's like, I forgot my worms. And I was like, we can go back and get them if you want. I was like, I don't mind. I'll run in the house and grab them for you if you want. He's like, no. I'll throw artificial. Man.
Is he glad he did?
I'll tell you what, my dad was throwing around this little gold, I think it's from Dangle, Zek, the inline spinners that you guys are carrying. I'm going to look them up on Dark Horse Tackle just because you guys deserve to know. But my dad was throwing around on this tiny little, what do you call it? This tiny little ultralight rod. He was throwing around, from Dangle Lures. He was throwing around the cannon, and little like 3/16 of an ounce. Somebody's calling me. Everybody, what do we got? It's my mother. Oh, are you sure you're only coming up on Wednesday? Oh, yeah. So he was throwing around the Dangle Cannon, which is a really, really unbelievable all metal inline spinner, and he couldn't keep the yellow perch, of which he got a couple of decent ones off of this thing. Like, they were just all over it. It was nuts. I was throwing around a finesse swim bait laid into a super tiny rock bass, and I was like, it's Winnipesaukee, baby. That's
what we come to expect. That's what we're expecting.
So I got this little rock bass in, we start fishing around this corner, and I'm like, we'll just follow these lines of docks, and we'll get into these marinas. I'm like, it's early, so like, we'll see if they're up shallow to feed, and they were. I caught a nice smallie, I think like a 13-inch smallie, and then I caught a larger smallie afterwards. We found the same thing. We found a weed edge, and we just kind of posted up right over it, and would just kind of cover water around there. And I mean, we both caught yellow perch. I caught another smallmouth that absolutely choked this bait. And then I was like, I have a feeling I was getting tapped on the bottom, and I wasn't sure exactly what it was. And I was throwing my finesse swim bait. I was throwing on a Jigmaster's perfected ball head jig, chartreuse head, which is kind of becoming the new juice for me. I kind of really like that. And I was throwing two different colors. I was throwing initially bluegill flash, and it was it got friggin' nuts. Hang on a second. Wolf of Walmart says, when I hear the words dangle and canids, I don't think fishing. Ayo, right? That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of innuendo in the fishing world. There is, and I'm here for it. I'm a guy who appreciates a lot of innuendo. So, we're out here, and we're getting it done, and I made the decision. I was like, you know what? I got a feeling that maybe whatever's biting me is much smaller. So I go, I'm going to play cute. I cut off my jig rod. I cut off my juvie craw. And I throw on a micro jig from Kitech, and I make a cast, and 2 hops of that jig, I get smoked. With the biggest yellow perch I put in the boat, it was about 11 inches in total. I'm like, okay, so it probably could have eaten that swim bait. It was just opting not to. Here we go. There you go, John. He says, the old dangling man cannon. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I used to call him Dangling Fury in high school. So yeah, I mean, it was a great day. My dad and I fished until about like 9 o'clock, and then went back to the house, made breakfast for everybody. My kids are crazy about this coffee shop called Aroma Joe's, and just because I am a dad who steps up to the plate when he needs to, I have been fucking with them constantly, and I'm like, are you guys going to get coffee there at Joe's Aroma? And I'm like, does Joe have to take a shower? And it's just, I am terrible is what it is. That's what it is. And they cringe every single time. But everybody's up there having a good time right now. And I will be here at home working until Wednesday. And last week I made the decision. I was like, I had the opportunity to pick up a Monday. So I was like, I'm going to pick up this Monday and cover it, but I'm going to take Thursday off to extend my weekend, and I'll put that there. So here we are. I'm going to make that happen. It's going to be a good time. But my dad and I are going to be fishing Thursday morning. I think that's the only day where the forecast looks like it might rain, and it's like a 20% chance of rain. I'll be out there regardless. It doesn't matter. And when I go to, and then Friday I'll be going out. All of this is probably going to be in Winnipesaukee, but we have to leave the place we're staying at like 10 a.m. So, I mean, I'm going to have all my stuff packed up so I can wake up that morning, load up my truck, and just be out. But I got to yank the boat out. Obviously, that's not a problem. But I'm going to get the boat, and I'm thinking about fishing elsewhere. Or do I just hightail it home and then enjoy the rest of my Saturday night, maybe fishing somewhere local? I don't know. I got to figure that out. So my plans for Saturday are still up in the air, but the video I'm working on right now is basically covering last Saturday's fishing, Sunday morning's fishing, and then Thursday and Friday will be in there. Saturday will probably have its own video because I'm hoping it's going to be a big send. It should be pretty bad. Ryan says Winnisquam. That's where I was fishing on Saturday, was Winnisquam. And I got to tell you, and I made the comment to a couple of New Hampshire folks that listen to the show, namely Adam Blomeke. I texted him and I was like, Winnisquam had a few more wreck boats than advertised. And when I left the launch, the parking lot was packed, and there were boat trailers all over the street, like everywhere. I'm like, this is just bananas. And I'll bet you that place is awesome on a Tuesday. I'll bet you it is. And realistically, it's a couple hour drive. I would do it in a day without having to camp or anything like that. I would do it, if I wasn't married to the idea of it. And I probably will this fall, to tell you the truth. I probably will. I don't know. Oh, let's see what we got. Wolf Walmart says, speaking of which, who's seen Old Nude Lady while fishing? New segment called Memories. Sean the Fisherman's seen way too much nudity while on the water. From far too diverse a grouping of people to be enjoyable, I think. That's if you go back to some of the old Sean the Fisherman stories, there's a lot of nudity involved. A lot. It's a little bit weird. It's like Porky's 5, I don't even know. I know there's Porky's 2. I don't even know if there's a 3. Yeah, it's like Pickle Park. Yes, it is, Marco. It's like Pickle Park. 100%. But yeah, New Hampshire's beautiful. I've been having a good time. I've been catching fish. I've been catching some decent fish too. And I ain't mad at that one bit. So yeah, I'm going to be out there on Thursday, out there on Friday. I'm going to definitely be out fishing on Saturday and putting some more good fishy content for you guys too. I do want to capture some video of like the meals with my family and stuff like that and like all that shit. And hopefully I can squeeze some of that footage in. I did get some video of my dad holding this absolute beaut of a yellow perch with like the picture perfect pattern, like really, really nice, picture perfect. But we had a good time. It was a whole lot of fun, and I can't complain. And it's been a very fishy week, and I'm here for it. I'm 100% here for it. Let's go ahead and do this, guys. We are coming up on 45 minutes right now. We're going to take a short break. We're going to come back around. We got a couple of segments in here for you guys. We have an FTG that comes all the way from South Jersey. We have Eli calls in with a little nugget for our Just the Tip, but I'm going to be expanding on that. We're talking about hydration. We got Jimmy Lee in the house, a.k.a. Rar Fishing. He's in the beef seat. And then we've got a bunch of stuff to talk about in the live well, guys. I am Bobby Roast Beef. You guys are happy Jigs and Bigs listeners. Go ahead, grab yourself a little bit of refreshment because segment number 2 is coming up right after this.
And perhaps play a little game called Just the Tip. Just for a second, just to see how it feels. Or, ouch, ouch, you're on my hair.
Okay.
It's crisp. I'm telling you, it's very, very crisp. We're talking about hydration here in the chat right here. And Dave says, he goes, I can't do sparkling element. And I could see maybe where that would be a bit odd. But Dave, you also drink your element like with like a 12 or a 16 ounce bottle of water. That is just nuts. I've been taking a 32 ounce Nalgene, right? Shaking an element with like maybe 4 or 5 ounces of water in there just to get it going. Top it all off, ice cold, and I'm like this is salt. Like, this is salty, but the mango chili, dude, it is so good. It is so good. Part of me wants to somehow make it a margarita. I don't know, maybe that'll be a camping thing. I don't know. But anyway, we're talking hydration here because hydration is really important for everybody. Like, if you have a beating heart and you are alive and a human, you are made up of a massive amount of water already. You require regular hydration. And some people just can't. Either the activities that they're doing are in the environment that they are, it's pushing it too far, and they need a little bit of additional assistance to kind of, jump on, or to get what they're losing from just keeping cool. Other folks, it's like they're just like, I don't like the taste of water. You know what I mean? And they need something to like, make it more enjoyable or something like that. Well, Eli, on Jigs and Bigs, we hear a lot from Eli's self. Eli shared a story with me and inspired me to bring this up and talk about it in this week's Just the Tip. So before we dive into Just the Tip, let's go ahead and listen. This is Eli telling us all about his frightening situation.
Hey, it's Eli. Got a just the tip this week. So I was out on the water on Wednesday, fishing, and started getting really dizzy. Tried to fish through it, and then paddled back to where I launched. And as I was getting off the water, could barely get out of the kayak. Ended up throwing up, and pretty much had to go up and just lay down. Thankfully I was at a buddy's house where I could do it, but ended up. And that was this past Wednesday, and I still feel it. So my tip is stay hydrated. It's something we don't think about that often, but stay hydrated. And if something pops up, don't overlook it. Know that it might be serious, and it was a pretty scary situation. I'm still dealing with the effects of it. Also, we're at PFD because at one point in time, I thought I was going to fall out of kayak. I was so dizzy. Okay. Have a good day. Bye.
That is frightening shit. I had something similar, not to that extent, not where like I was actually like nauseous, but there was a day where I was out and it was like 105, 106 degrees, something like that. It was ridiculously hot, and it was one of these things where I was in a scavenger hunt, and I needed to catch. It was in July. I needed a trout. I was just like, I need rainbow, I need brown, I gotta go. So I went to the deepest part of this one pond, and I got my trout. I was drop shotting in the deepest spot, vertical, like just, I find a spot, sitting in the kayak, drop that drop shot down, and just wiggle until I got something to bite. And I caught some other bycatch as well, but I got the trout. But when I got back to the launch from pedaling back in the sun, like, I tried to go from a shady area and then pedal to another shady area to kind of give myself a break out of being out of the sun or being in the sun. And it was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous how much of an impact it had on me. But, I remember getting off the water going like, I am not going to do that again. And it was one of these things where like I had stopped and picked up a couple of like polar seltzers, and I had them in the truck. I forgot to put them in the kayak, but I'm like, this is just a small pond. It's probably not a bad idea. It's probably not the worst place for me to be. It's not like I'm going that far. I can go back if I need them, and I didn't think that I needed them, and then I realized I needed them. I was at the launch on the way back. As soon as I started drinking this water, I immediately felt somewhat improved. I wasn't at this point that Eli was, but I did a little bit of research here, and here's the thing. So you got to realize that when you are out fishing, all right, hours can pass, obviously, before you even realize it because you're preoccupied. Time flies when you're on the water. It just is what it is. The sun will be beating down on you. The wind will dry you out. You may not even necessarily realize how much water it is that you're losing because you're probably a little too focused on the fishing, which is totally understandable. Hydration isn't just about feeling thirsty, though, and that's what I think people forget. It's about keeping your body working the way that it should. The reason why hydration is so important is because your body, like I said, it's made up of the majority of your body is made up of water. It's about 60%. You need it to think clearly. You need it to keep your muscles moving, to regulate your body temperature. That's a given. And when you're dehydrated, everything from your focus to your reaction time, it all suffers. And it's a real problem when you're trying to tie on a lure, trying to make an accurate cast, or you're trying to net a fish or even flip a fish. The dangers of dehydration can be significant. Dehydration can sneak up on you, especially when you're focused on something else like fishing. Mild dehydration can make you tired and a little bit, cranky and irritable. Severe dehydration, though, that is something else. That's where you start to get the effects Eli was. Dizziness, confusion, literal heat stroke, and in some extreme cases, it can be life-threatening. Here's a list of some signs you can look for to know if you are actually becoming dehydrated. We're talking about dry mouth and cracked lips. Cracked lips, I think, often go totally unnoticed. Headache or lightheadedness, dark yellow or strong-smelling urine, muscle cramps, and fatigue or sluggish reaction time. sometimes like when I can remember one time specifically, I was fishing with Topless Timmy Jakes, and it was a grinder of a day. This is when I caught my personal best largemouth when I was with him, and we were fishing in this grass, and I was throwing a drop shot, and it was like I was having a conversation with myself. I was like, I'm drinking so much water. I'm like, I don't know if I can physically do this. Like, this is just insane to me. And it was, I noticed, and it was this odd situation. I'm like, I don't want to be a bitch that's like, hey, we should probably go get in some AC. You know what I mean? And I'll give you a few tips for things that you can do to help right here, actually. First off, start your day hydrated. So don't go out already dehydrated. Start your day with a bunch of water right before you even head out. As you're getting your stuff together, one thing that I do is I like these 32-ounce wide mouth Nalgene bottles, and what I'll do is I have two of them. I'll fill them both up, and I will drink one entirely before I leave the house, and I'll fill that one back up, and then I take them both with me. Start out hydrated, and that's an important one. And you want to make sure to continue to sip water through the day. If you're waiting until you feel thirsty, especially in like extreme heat, you might be putting yourself behind the 8 ball without realizing that you are. So keep drinking it regularly. Balance your electrolytes. And this is something else that's super important. When you sweat, you lose salt and minerals. It's not just water. There's more to it. In fact, just to kind of put it out there for perspective, when I was drinking this element last Saturday, I got back to the truck, and like I said, I was feeling great. I was sweating in the sun for sure, obviously, because it was really hot. When I got all my gear packed up and I got in the truck and the AC was on, it was nice and cool. As I cooled down and my shirt started to dry, I had this, because I wear a lot of black sun shirts because it draws the sun and it will dry quicker and all that stuff. I had this big white salt ring around my shoulders, around like all the way across my chest and around my shoulders and on my back. This giant white jagged salt ring from all the minerals that came out. If that isn't a sign that you're losing a lot of required nutrients and minerals from your outing into your clothing like that, that's just proof right there. So the other thing is this: keep your drinks cold. Like, cold drinks can, if nothing else, give you a little bit of a reprieve from feeling the heat so badly. So keep your drinks cold. So an insulated bottle is a big deal. Plus, I do want to say this one has a lot to do with, there are a lot of folks who cannot drink warm water that's been sitting out in the sun. Like, they just can't do it. They're like, oh, it's gross or whatever. I ain't that guy. I go out with these Nalgenes and they'll get hot in the sun. And like, by the time I got done with that first Nalgene that was full of that mango chili element, I was just sipping on. I was like, it's. I have no problem with that. But there are folks, and I understand. Like, if you're one of those people that's like, hey, I can't. I'm just not. If this water gets warm, I'm not going to drink it. Do what you can and be prepared, with some stuff to keep your water cold. A cooler is a big deal. If you're on a kayak and you can't carry a huge cooler, bring a cooler bag with a couple of ice packets, or even better, freeze your water bottles the day before and then put them in frozen, so that this way they're keeping stuff cool in your cooler, but also as they are melting, you've got water to drink that will stay cold, and you'll be more likely to drink it because it's cold. Then we have, let's see, what's this last one on this list here? This is a big one. It goes, avoid too much caffeine or alcohol. They can speed up dehydration. I want to talk about coffee for a minute, all right, specifically. Here's the deal about coffee. Coffee is a diuretic, all right? Coffee will push water through you. But at the same time, you have to realize that drinking black coffee does hydrate you. It's not ideal. And when they say too much alcohol, anything that is below 10% ABV for alcohol, so I'm talking about like most beer, will hydrate you. A lot of people don't think about that. It will hydrate you. It's some of the other effects from alcohol will speed up dehydration, and it can be a bit of a problem. But and I've looked into this, and there's this thing about bubbles. Folks will say all the time that, like, oh, it's got to be flat water. It can't be carbonated at all. That's not accurate. You can drink carbonated water, seltzers, things like that, and it's fine. They're, carbonation has effects on other, instances when like carbonation in like a mixed drink, the alcohol will get absorbed faster. That's something that I've heard before. But carbonation will absolutely like stay in your body, or will absolutely hydrate your body. It's not going to prevent you from getting the hydration that you need. So let's talk about some like specific products and things like that can kind of help you. First off, electrolyte drink mixes are a really good, convenient way to do it. So whether it's Element, we've been throwing that around here a lot. I like this a lot because there's no sugar component to it. It's not like sweet or anything like that. But there's also like Liquid IV I used to use all the time. And one of the things I used to use Liquid IV for was not so much when I was on the boat fishing, because after that one instance on my kayak, I'm usually a little bit better about making sure that I'm hydrated. So it's not like an emergency situation or anything, but I have a couple out there. And there are days where like I've been out fishing with folks that are really sensitive, or they just don't start the day hydrated, so they're already behind it. And having a Liquid IV will kind of help bring them back. The nice thing is about Liquid IV is you can find it all over the place, But I used to drink one of those before I would camp in my truck. And the reason is I didn't want to be camping in my truck and get like a leg cramp at night. Think about that. Me in the back of my 4Runner, like unable to get out and stretch my leg out in order to release that cramp, that can be bad. That can be very, very bad. Shit, that could lead to like broken glass and shit. It could be really bad. So that was a big deal with me. Element is great because it doesn't have any of the shit in it. It's literally salt and minerals. That's all. The flavors that are in there, I find that they kind of like lean to kind of help things out. You're going to drink it and you're going to taste the salt. Like it's just, it is what it is. But at the same time, if you're looking to get the cleanest type of additive that you can put that drink mix to add to water to get the most out of it, Element's your go-to. There's another one here on this list too that I found called Noon. I haven't found this. I think they're tablets though that dissolve and they replace minerals in order to keep and keep your energy up. I think it's kind of like an energy drink as well. Sports drinks are great too if you have them. Thing is with those is that they do take up space, so you have to like keep them in mind. So like Gatorade, your body armor stuff, they can all be good for hot days with heavy sweating, but you got to obviously watch the sugar content. Insulated bottles will help you to keep your water colder so that you will drink it. So like if you're looking at like Yeti, like I think it's called the Rambler, Hydro Flask bottles are really popular, things like that. It'll keep your water really cold for hours, even in direct sunlight on the hottest days. And then hydration packs are another way that you can go. I've seen people before will take in their kayaks and put a hydration pack and attach it to the back of their seat so that it's completely out of the way, but they have a straw that's right behind them that they can grab and sip water throughout the day, all day. So I think Camelback makes some stuff like that, and there's a couple other bag companies that make hydration packs that you can adapt to different usage. But hydration, bottom line, it's not optional. It's technically it's part of your fishing gear, really. Just like you wouldn't head out with your tackle box or your rods and reels, you shouldn't hit the water without a plan to keep drinking. Well-hydrated angler is sharper, safer, and probably more successful overall. So take that for what it's worth. Keep yourself hydrated. As far as Eli's situation, I'm glad it didn't turn out terribly. Like I think personally it could have been much worse. I even told when he initially messaged me this, I was like, dude, like that's like close to heat stroke level. Like I've never ever to the point where I've been nauseous and I've like thrown up from it. I'm like that's pretty. It's a good thing he got off the water when he did. It's freaking bananas, but. Let's go ahead and go through some of these comments because we got a few things coming up here. Let's see what we got. Oh, wow. John Hagen's. We go back a little ways. Yeah. So Eli says, he goes, I walked maybe 5 steps and I could barely do it. And that's, I believe it, man. When you're just out of your mind. Let's see. What do we got? John Hagens goes, I got a little dehydrated while on my trip with Eli. After he left, Mother Nature decided to rehydrate the hell out of me. Sometimes that works. He goes, but if you feel thirsty then you are already dehydrated. You're right, John. 100% you are. Dave chimes in. He says, dehydration hits your mind first and your body second. So if you feel dehydrated, it's already too late. Eli goes, don't mess with dehydration. It sucks. And then Eli says, John, I think it actually started when we first went out. John says, if you don't have to piss like a racehorse upon arrival, you didn't do it right. Dude, you're not kidding. You're not kidding. Drink a cup of water equal to the amount of coffee that you drink. Well, and to be honest, like, that's a good practice no matter what. Whether you're drinking coffee or you're drinking alcohol, have a coffee, have a cocktail, have a water. Do that, and you will maintain much better hydration going that way than if you didn't. Yes, and the amount of sodium and minerals in your body is less than water, so keep your ratios up. John says, if I'm planning a long-winded trip, I bring a cooler/bag with ice. It's small, but it holds 8 drinks with ice. It makes a big difference, man. It makes a big, big difference. So yeah, stay hydrated. Do what you got to do. Plan in advance, and trust me, if you're putting a lot of pressure on going out and having a really great day on this one day, don't let the fact that you didn't have enough water before you left the house screw it up for you. I always say this all the time. If you're an angler who doesn't have the ability to take multiple trips throughout a week and fish kind of like as you want to, where you're putting a little bit of pressure on the limited amount of time that you have in order to do good, don't let something like dehydration fuck it up for you. Go ahead and make sure that you have at least a quart of water before you leave the house, maybe 2. Make sure you're fully hydrated, and then do what you got to do to make sure on the way that you're safe and that everything is good. That way you'll be good. Let's go ahead and shift gears though, because we got a little bit of news out of South Philly that I think might be amazing.
Hey, Bobby Roast Beef. It's Josh from South Jersey. I got another FTG. So this actually goes out to an entire state park, or at least whoever's in charge of the staff. So I live 5 minutes from a bunker lake in South Jersey, what they call one. That actually sucks. Either way. And I've lived in this area for a little over 25 years. And never had a lot of success there. However, it's a nice spot. They have a floating dock, whatever. You can take your kids, go drown some worms with them. Do what you will, And occasionally you might get a good, decent one there. But it's a backup. It's a fallback if you need it. So it became a fallback. One of our other spots, me and a buddy I was fishing with, became a fallback because that spot was all overcrowded. And so we get there, and this parking lot that I've parked in since I was a kid, my parents even. Well, we left our vehicles, went off and found a spot to attempt to try to catch some fish. We come back, and there is signs on both of our vehicles, a little post-it notes on our vehicles from the park, stating that you can no longer park there because now it's only for boats and kayaks. And to top that off, so there's only about 6 spots you can pull a trailer in for a boat. Everything else is very small parking, like small car SUV kind of parking. They've also changed the rules where you don't just have to register your boat and pay their stupid $20, which is like the only state park or body of water in the area to do that outside of some semi-private ponds or whatever. They're now making it where you have to pay to launch your kayak. Whether it's recreational, doesn't matter. They're charging you a nice $20 to do that crap. Anyway, pissing me off. So, fuck them. Alrighty, talk to you later. Tight lines.
I gotta tell you, I think it's bizarre because we hear this shit all the time. I've complained about it before, where the parking specifically, you'll have people that will take up spots that are not for those vehicles. Like it pisses me off when I go in with either my kayak or my boat, and there's the few spots that are there for boats with trailers. Or for cars with trailers, there's cars without trailers parked in them. Or even better is when I see that there's two cars that are parked like right in back. Like two people showed up in different vehicles, and we're like, we'll just use up one spot. That way we're not that we're being conscientious assholes at that point. Like this is, I'm sorry I had to go through that, Josh. That sucks. And if there's no signage, like, I understand your frustration. If there was no signage while you were there and nothing to be changed, and then that's how they're getting the word out is with Post-it notes, get fucked. Like that, fuck that. That's bullshit. Like you're a state-run organization. You're going to be providing a revenue stream off of people utilizing this facility that's here. Awesome. I get that you're going to do that because that's what state organizations do. Whatever. If they can put a price tag on it, they're going to. But I will say, do it the fucking right way, New Jersey. Like, put up signage. It might suck, but the thing is, Josh, there's things you can do. You could reach out to people in that town, in that specific town, and find your way to reach out to whichever department head you need to say, hey, this is fucked up, blah, 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 and then create your case. Oftentimes, it's just because it's neglected. Most of the people that make these decisions at that level have no idea. They're not out trying to bank fish. They're not out trying to, they're generally not out using these resources. They're just somehow in charge of like enforcing or laying down how the rules necessarily work. So there is something that you can do in that instance. It is shitty. And if they didn't have like signage to let you know from the beginning, like, hey, this is parking for these reasons or something, fantastic. As far as the boat like fee to launch and everything, there's a couple. I have a few theories on that. One of them is that they're trying to lessen the amount of traffic overall. So they when they do these things, I think oftentimes they're trying to keep traffic lower by putting some kind of like an entry, a barrier of entry there, and that being the fee. Well, I'm not going to take my boat here or my kayak here when I can go to this place and launch for free. Good. Okay, go ahead. That might be what they're trying to do. It is shitty, but that's what state organizations do. You know, they nickel and dime you. They change everything. Like there's Congamon Jr. over here. I fish there quite often, and I think was it last year or the year before? It used to be free to park there, and now there is an automated kiosk. So you can enter in your plate and pay to park right there, all like within whatever hours. I want to say it's like something like 9 a.m. until like 6 p.m. or 4 p.m. Some window of time. It might be 8 to 4, something like that. Or now, at least to make it convenient, like there's an app where I can go online, enter my data, and my plate shows up with, I get it. But it's shitty. I have a strong feeling they didn't leave any fucking signs. They didn't put anything up. They just changed the rule and didn't let anybody know. And now this is how they're fucking telling people is with fucking Post-it notes. Really? I have to give my best New Jersey to that. That's fucked up. That is fucked up. Fuck that guy. Speaking of New Jersey, this segment's full of New Jersey. We got raw fishing in the beef seed coming up right now. Actually, I think we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. Check out what's up with Jimmy. He's going to share some really good stories, some really, really good stuff. Give us a little bit of insight into bait finesse fishing. And he's working on a little bit of a project here, and I can't wait till it's done. Because if there's one guy in America that I think has his ear to like the pulse of what is bass fishing what is bait finesse fishing from the origin level, It's Jimmy, Raw Fishing. We'll see you guys in a bit. Don't go too far. We got much more Jigs and Bigs coming up. You don't want to miss it. Alrighty, guys. Bobby Roast Beef here. We got another guest in the beef seat here. We got someone you guys are probably pretty familiar with, either on Instagram or on Facebook. We got the one and only Jimmy Lee. You probably know him better as Raw Fishing on both of those platforms. Jimmy, how you doing, dude? How's things? Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me on the show. I am having a great Monday so far.
Good, fantastic. I can't complain, man. It's a busy Monday. I have been running around like crazy trying to plan some stuff for this fall and getting ahead work for this week. It's just nuts, man. But I'm excited to have you on the show, dude. I really am. It's not very often that I get to have somebody on who is as I don't want to obviously you're big into bait finesse and everything, and I can certainly appreciate that. But I think overall, I feel like you're a big appreciator of innovation in the fishing world in general, like from the industry and everything, because you've been at this for a while trying to put unique spins on presentations for years. Like I was looking back at your Instagram and I remember back in the day with that blue grid background when you would have different rigs and you would show off and you're like stuff like the Chico rig that like now like so many, I can mention it and people know what we're talking about. You know what I mean? And I feel like you were a player in that for quite a bit. And that kind of, I feel like has gone into more diverse types of fishing because you're definitely, while I feel like you're probably a little bass heavy, you're open to catching everything. Like you're a fishy son of a bitch. And I love that. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
So let's start at the beginning. Like I'm sure you've talked about this stuff before, but with the Jigs and Bigs community, let's talk about how did you get introduced into the outdoors, fishing in general, and then how did things ramp up? Because you're repping a couple of specific brands and retailers that are key players for people who really want to diversify what they're doing.
Yes. So let's talk a little bit about back in the days, shall we? So I started fishing, around 10 years old. But I always loved the outdoors. My father, he was never a fisherman, but he loves being out there near the water because although we're Chinese, he's from Vietnam. Mm-hmm. And back then, growing up, he would go through rice paddies or, ocean and creeks and stuff. So when we're here, I grew up in Philadelphia. So he would take us to like creeks. We'll flip rocks. We'll discover what's underneath rocks. And there's so many type of things from bugs to crawdads to even eels hiding underneath these rocks. And one day, one of our trips, I saw a guy who was fishing in the creek. And he hooked on something massive. Yep. Okay. And it ended up to be a very, very large carp. All right. So that got me interested in fishing. So my father had bought me some gears and stuff, but he don't know anything about fishing. So the gears kind of stayed in the garage. Sure. And given that I grew up in Philly, it's really tough to go without my parents to go anywhere, right? Being a kid. They don't want us going out because they're very protective. So instead, they bought us video game consoles. I think that was the solution for most parents back in the day where they had to work and they gave us video games, right? So I grew up playing video games. Specifically, I would spend some time looking into fishing games. And the one that is most in my mind right now is Super Black Bassin with Hank Parker on Super Nintendo. Oh, I don't know if you played that before. I've heard the title. My previous co-host on the show was big into fishing video games, and I'm sure he's very familiar. So that's basically like my first outlet to like real bass fishing. And I was like, wow, there's all these cool lures and stuff. And so I would try to imitate those by buying some of those things. Yep. But still, I was not able to go out and fish. And they just sat, But eventually, when I got a little older and I actually could get out, my first fish that I caught was actually a creek chub. And it was off my friend's fishing rod where he would just take little pieces of Philly pretzels, soft pretzels, and he would just put it on a hook and dangle it over a bridge by a creek that's close to his apartment. So that's how I got into fishing. That's awesome, man. Yeah. And eventually I moved away. I moved to Delaware. Yep. I grew up, I guess, around 11 years old. So basically from middle school into high school, right? I actually had a creek down the street.
Oh, there you go. That's pay dirt.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how all my fishing started. And it started, just like any other kids, with the split shot and the hook. I'm catching more, again, creek chubs, but they had eels there. And once in a while, they had like sucker fish and stuff like that. So that was it. And eventually, when I got to high school, my first job, I worked at a state park, and they had a pond there. And that's how I got more and more into fishing, because I was able to fish there during my breaks and after my part-time job.
Sure. That's great. Yeah, take advantage of it. Make a little bit of a paycheck, pop in there, and get yourself accessibility that way. That's an awesome way to do it, man.
Yes, sir.
Where did things kind of take off for you, where you were just like the love for innovation and tackle kind of started? Like where was the turning point for that?
Well, I would say, given that I have siblings, I think my youngest brother was basically my worst sibling at that time. I would bully him because he's young, he's got all the attention and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
But at one point, I found a connection between us that where we could, because I grew a little older, but there's always that tension.
Sure.
And I think he felt the same way too, because he's a very bright guy.
Yep.
We found that look, we both love fishing. Let's jump into fishing, and we are still siblings, right? So we end up being competitive.
Of course.
So instead of bashing each other, and like with hate, we bash each other from who catch more fish, bigger fish, and that drove us to research into different type of fishing tackle.
Yeah.
Okay. And for me, I think Barnes and Noble and those places where they have bass magazines, stuff like that, I'll get a subscription, and then we'll just dive into it. We'll look into it, and we just pick out our favorite stuff, and we'll just practice it. Yeah. That's how it happened. But eventually, we all had to grow up. Yeah. I went to Philadelphia again for college, and that's when social media started picking up.
Sure.
Facebook was born, right? And then also eventually Instagram and YouTube. And I found a way that I could keep my fishing adventure, like sharing my fishing adventures with my younger brother, which is what's through YouTube. Right. I was recording small little catches here and there, just cast a catch type videos.
Sure.
And then eventually I met people. Believe it or not, One Rod, One Reel went to the same college that I went to. He went to Drexel University.
Oh, okay.
And so I looked up Leo and everything. Back then, they weren't onto YouTube yet.
Yep.
They were into a blog, and eventually they got into it.
Yeah.
They got into it quick. I guess you could say I'm one of the early birds, but I never took off.
Yep.
I was a boring guy.
Yeah. Hey, it's wild, man. Sometimes like it just takes that drive and consistency, but it's paying off now because you're at a point with your YouTube, like, dude, you have what, like 80,000 subscribers or something in that ballpark, right?
Yep.
Dude, that's massive. That's a big deal, especially for folks that are like just in the last year or two getting into it. Like YouTube is a grind. Like that is something that a lot of people see and they're just like, holy shit, this guy put in some work. But if you go through your channel, you absolutely did. You've been grinding this whole time. And the same thing with your Instagram as well. Like you've got a big following and a shitload of engagement. Like people are always asking questions and talking about different techniques and things like that. Let's talk a little bit about like, I'm a big bait finesse fan. I genuinely love it. There are a lot of people, like I've been using the moniker Bobby Roast Beef since 2005 for my business. I have an entertainment company, so it's like I want to be memorable. But lately people are just like, bait finesse Bobby, there he is. And I find that I can take, like right now is a perfect example. This whole July has been nothing but a series of really just unimpressive small fish. But I'll tell you what, when I'm catching them on light gear, like my bait finesse stuff, like my arc rod, my bass finesse light rod that I have that thing so dialed right now. These, 9 to 11 inch, 12 inch fish, they fight like crazy. They're a blast, especially the smallmouth. And it has changed my appreciation for those slow days where like, if I'm getting bit on conventional gear and I'm like, this isn't even fun. That's where I'm grabbing my other stuff. Or if I'm not getting bit on conventional gear and I'm like, I got to throw something smaller, or I want to fish more efficiently, why don't you walk us through bait finesse? Because you've got a good grasp, and and we talked about this before, but you don't have to dive into the whole history. But let's kind of explain like some of the reasons why somebody else would really want to kind of pay attention to this and get into it. What's the appeal?
Well, I think the most appeal is that a lot of folks just has a disbelief of bait casting reels cannot cast light lures. I think that's the main one. And therefore everyone went to spinning setups, right? But a lot of people don't know the reason why bait finesse was born in the first place was the usage of fluorocarbon. And when fluorocarbon was first getting popular in the fishing industry, they sucked. And it sucked hard. And what I mean by that is, in order for you to have any sort of good strength of fluorocarbon, they had to be pretty thick because they were pretty weak. And back then, they were stiff to begin with. So it just did not work well with spinning gears. And that's why power finesse fishing was developed. And power finesse fishing is basically a spinning reel with thin PE line as the main line. And then you have a fluoro leader, right? But back then, you cannot cast fluorocarbon on a spinning setup. You have to use a bait casting setup. And that's where it started, right? Like they're saying that, well, we don't need this much line anyway, because fluorocarbon back then was so stiff that you wouldn't get distance, even if you were throwing a half-ounce jig, right? Because that's how bad it was. So they said, well, why don't we reduce the spool capacity, right? And then that would reduce the total weight of the spool, and then they would cast a little bit better. It's close quarter anyway. And then eventually they got to a point where they would cast very light lures. Not to mention, they also discovered that fluorocarbon, if you were to cure it in a different way, you'll still have this, you're still using fluorocarbon, the actual, the chemical, right? But different curing process will allow it to be, one, thinner, stronger, and more supple. And that's how we have high-end fluorocarbon today, right? And that made it even better. Like going down to 1 gram lures of fluorocarbon was unheard of. Right? And it's been a while in Japan. But I don't think people wanted to do bait finesse back then, is because one, yen was too expensive. Like back then, before the yen dropped, right? You have to do everything custom. You have KTF spools, right? You have to buy different type of bearings, and you have to buy everything. You buy JDM rods, because that's the only place that had bait finesse rods, right? And for you to bring that over here, it costs a lot of money.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense because, the manufacturers, or in the early days, it wasn't that these were on the market. It was that you could buy whatever reel, and then replace parts in order to make it super light so that it could do this job. That makes a bunch of sense. And I think that's where there is the stipulation that people are like, they have this preconceived notion that like, oh, bait finesse is super bougie. Like anything in fishing, you can do it to the umpteenth level, or you can do it on a budget. And I was really surprised when I got into bait finesse how much of a budget I was able to do it on, I really was. And I love that you bring up specifically fluorocarbon, because you're the guy that's responsible for me being like, it's not about braid all the time with bait finesse. It really, really is not. So I'll give a little bit of history here. And actually because of you and Cat Dip and Weird Lure Club, Official, like that's kind of how the relationship with Arc Fishing came into the fold. And Arc has been doing their Gravity Series BFS reels for like 2 years now, is it? Maybe even a little bit longer. Two. And they're pretty amazing. Like they really when coming into this, obviously, the names of like the big hitters, Daiwa, Shimano, like Luz. You're paying attention to all this stuff, and when I discovered that Arc had I was just like, I had never used it before. So I'm like, I'm looking around. So I got into a Dark Wolf U50. That was my first bait finesse.
From Surinoya. Surinoya.
Fantastic. And I was like, because this is something that I want to try out and dabble a little bit. And I got into a rod that was recommended to me from a couple of other creators, Jeff and Paul at Aggressively Average Anglers. And they recommended I look into a Shimano Majestic XT. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. I'll check that out. Because it was right in the budget of like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. But I'm not going to jump in like crazy. We'll see. Like, I'm not buying Megabass stuff yet. That day is coming, but like not yet. You know what I mean? And I'll be honest with you, when I got into it, it checked all the boxes that I was looking for. But I had this idea that it was like, of course, this is finesse stuff. Of course, I'm throwing braided line as my main line because I want it to be supple. I want it to have the best castability that I can. And then I got into the when Arc had released the Bass Finesse line of bait finesse rods, which are like. They're putting in the work, man. They really are. I haven't caught the record breakers on them yet, but I've caught close. And I've definitely caught some fish in some sketchy situations. And it was probably about a month ago. I was out and I was fishing with a buddy of mine. We were fishing this grassy area, and I was throwing some really, really light jigs, essentially, tiny finesse jigs. And I had on this combo I was throwing around a downsized popper. And I'm like, so I was like, yeah, I've got braided line on that spool and everything. And I'm like, I was about to tie a leader so I could put a jig on this rod. And I was like, you know what? I have so much of this 6-pound fluoro ready to go. I'm like, I'm just going to pull all this braid right off this spool and retie it. And I want to thank you again, too. You actually taught me through one of your videos a really great method for tying your main line because you don't want to use backing on these reels, on these spools. It's too shallow. It'll eat up too much real estate. But I tied on, I just measured it basically once I could see the holes in the spool kind of disappear, that's when I stopped putting line on the reel. Like it was through the floor. I was like, because I didn't have a counter or anything like that. And I'm like, well, I'll figure this out. What a difference, dude. Like for real. I was like a hater. I was like, there's no way this is going to cast that great. This last weekend, I was in our slot limit series tournament. I was at a small lake in New Hampshire, super clear, rocky, really deep. And I probably put 30 fish in the boat that didn't meet the slot. They were 9 to 11 and a half inches long, something like that. I had caught one early in the day that fit the slot. The slot's 12 to 17 inches. And the biggest fish I caught of that day was on this one cast. And he was deep. It was 16 and 3/4 inch smallie, right?
Oh, wow.
On a 3/32 ounce K-Tech micro jig, the mono spin, with a tiny crawl trailer. I think it's from Mule, actually. I forget the name of it. And I just trimmed it up real small, and this thing just absolutely hammered it. That rod did so well, but I was amazed, I'm like, I can't believe throwing fluorocarbon on bait finesse is really that. And it's not like I'm using anything amazing. I'm using some Uzuri. I think it's Top Knot. I want to say it's Top Knot.
Okay, Uzuri Top Knot.
Yeah,
I'm familiar.
It's nothing spectacular. You know what I mean? It's affordable, but like it's just it amazes me how well it does. You know, it really does. So hats off to you, man, for making me see the light. And I'm trying to get people interested in this stuff as well. And I think that it makes a huge difference. It really does, especially in clear water.
Oh, definitely.
Let's talk specifically about some of your experiences, because you've been at this for quite a while. I've only been doing this for a little over a year. You've been doing this for a bit, and you're in a part of the country that I appreciate, and that's snakehead country. Now, have you been catching snakehead on bait finesse?
Yes, I have. I've been starting to do more lately.
Yep.
Because I got a lot of small lures, and a lot of people like to see people wrangle snakeheads using lighter tackle.
Sure.
But snakeheads generally, it's hard to do so because they have a very, very bony jaw structure, and they have a very, very strong bite force. Like, it's one of the strongest biting fish that I have around the area.
Yeah.
You would have to pry their mouth open, and they usually destroy most of your lures.
Yeah. So
typically you use heavier tackle so that your stuff don't get destroyed.
Definitely.
Like, I've hooked snakeheads before with the thin EWG hooks and stuff, and as you try to handle them, they do a death row, and then the whole hook is gone pretty much.
Yep. Yeah.
Straighten out, bend to like multiple, like a pretzel shape. It's crazy, right? So yeah, I've been doing some BFS fishing with it, but I like to do more of a power BFS style. Yeah. So I would use like a medium light power rod, and I would use pretty thick PE line. I would say maybe 1.5 to 2 go.
Okay.
So
and in pound test, what would that be estimated? Like if you had to make a comparison.
25 to 30.
Yeah, so it's not huge,
Okay.
but this is we're talking about line that's quite a bit stronger than what you would throw on your traditional bait finesse stuff.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to that traditional bait finesse and all the bait finesse terminology, it's very subjective, depending who you ask.
Yeah.
Like, I spent a lot of time, and I literally mean I spent a lot of time in forums and groups looking up what the definition of bait finesse is. And it's really hard to pinpoint what it is because most of these forums, they're written by English-speaking folks. So with that said, most of us English-speaking folks done a lot of speculations on certain things.
Yep.
And if you're a bank angler, you're going to be biased towards bank angling, right?
Sure.
If you're a tournament angler, you'll be biased, right? So there's a lot of things that a lot of people don't know about the fishery in Japan, right? Like I personally feel like, and based on my research, like the definition of traditional bait finesse fishing really stemmed off from ultralight spinning anglers from the bank. And as you know, anything that deals with ultralight fishing, they put that very, very strong definition of specific weight ranges, right?
Exactly.
And,
yes. Yep.
And I guess I'll share with the folks who's listening, like this is, I guess you could say, the unofficial, official definition of traditional bait finesse fishing that the fishing community has agreed upon. And I did speak with a couple of Japanese companies too, and they kind of agreed as well. And that definition is 1 to 3 grams, but no heavier than 7 grams. Like, why is there an exception? Why can't it just be 1 to 7 grams? Like, it just boggles my mind. Right?
That makes, that
and
is
they don't
crazy.
even tell you the power of the rod, which is interesting. You would assume that it is an ultralight or like a light.
Or a light, yeah.
It really depends on the rod composition. There's a lot of rods out there that they make that it has a stronger backbone, but they have the midsection and the tip a little different so that you can still cast that 1 gram level.
Exactly. And, it's interesting too. Humans, we love to just put things into boxes and constantly categorize. And if it doesn't fit perfectly, that's where the arguments start. And
yes.
And in life, you realize, like, the older that you get, you realize that not everything fits neatly where it's supposed to go. Like sometimes that square block has to go into the round hole. It's like,
right.
And especially, and I'm glad you brought up rod powers, because there isn't a standardized measurement of that. So one brand that has a light might lean a little bit more toward another brand's medium light or ultra light, or, there's always something that's a little bit different. So it's when people are asking, and we get this all the time in our live well segment, people will say like, oh, so what should I be using for this? What are these items then to top whatever items that I have to have? And I'm like, man, it's not that simple. I wish I could just give you a shopping list, because what I like and for the way that I fish may be just different than what's going to work for you. So it is a little bit tricky. I think you get a lot more dialed and connected with your gear when you understand principles a little bit more and you're willing to be flexible, and I think that has a whole lot to do with it. Give me, now you've used a lot of gear and you've loved and not loved some gear. Like recently, I loved your video too, by the way, about the, I think it was a Lose Mach bait caster.
Mach 1 SS, yes.
Yeah, and they were kind of like, it was like a quasi shallow-ish spool, but not really like any, it was heavy as hell. And you didn't love it. I want to know some of the stuff that you were like, I love this. And what was it that stuck out to you that you were like, 100% I'm into this gear?
Okay. Well, I want to bring one specific reel out because it's you could say it's one of my first JDM reel, and in fact, it's the reel that made the world turn, and that is the 2016 Shimano Aldebaran BFS.
I knew you were going to say that, man. I knew it.
And the reason why I'm picking this reel is because a lot of people wanted that reel out of the box that would do everything, right? And before that specific reel, everyone didn't want a BFS setup because, well, you got to buy a reel first, and likely they're expensive.
Sure.
And then you buy a spool like KTF or a Vail, and that's expensive. Then you got to buy the right bearings, blah, blah, blah. It keeps going, right?
Yeah.
Like that amount of money that you get, plus the rod, it's easily over $1,000 back in the day before yen dropped, right? It was ridiculous. So I would say that is a great reel, and I did play with it. A fan actually bought it for me and sent it to me when the yen dropped. Like immediately, he's like, "Boop!" Like the moment I bought my first JDM BFS reel, which was the Daiwa Alpha's Air TW, which was 2019.
That's no slouch.
Within
either.
a week.
That's a good
within
reel.
a week. It's a great reel, right. Definitely, right? And he sent me that reel, and I was playing with it, and I love it. Like out of all the Shimano BFS stuff, even to today, the more advanced and more current, I still think that reel there is still number one from Shimano.
Yeah. Yeah. So. And it's funny. I have a friend of the show that has one, and he's like, keeps looking to move it. And the price is so right, Jimmy. The price is so right, but I just don't have the free funds. This is what sucks about working for yourself. Like sometimes you have rough years, you know what I mean? And I'm like,
oh yeah, I know.
It. You know, I'm like, I want to jump on this thing. So, but then again, also I don't have a need right now. I have a good variety of stuff because I'm working on a project, and I'd like your feedback. So
okay.
I really like in the fishing world, I sort of, there's a goal, I really want to get into the whole guiding world, and not necessarily with like, this is a destination body of water and I have X amount of experience in there, because I don't have that, but I do have a handful of techniques, and I've through the show and social media, people hit me up all the time specifically asking about these techniques, and I'm trying to start this guide program that focuses on the education part of it. I'll take you out on the boat, we'll go to a body of water I have experience with, or I'll put the work in to go to the body of water where they are, and we'll put this all together, and I'll teach that technique, you know, and obviously like we'll put the time in and make it happen. And this involves courses ahead of time for rigging and all sorts of stuff. One of those things is bait finesse, because as soon as I started talking about it on the show, and I'm sure it's you have a huge audience. I'm sure people reach out that have questions as well for you. I see there being the absolute amazing potential to connect with folks and say, come out and let me show you what's going on. I've got equipment you haven't made that leap yet. I've got multiple combos that you can utilize to get into it and try it out. I've had a couple of friends of mine that will just never throw anything that's not conventional, and I will be out fishing them, downsizing, and I can see the frustration on their face. This one time specifically, and there's a YouTube video of this, my buddy, we've been fishing for years together. I was like, we were loading up the boat, and I put one combo in there. It was a Cast King Zephyr on that Ben Key ultralight, and I was like, I'm just gonna put this in here, man. And if they happen to start biting really small stuff, it's here for you. You know, he hates spinning reels and he hates tying leaders. So I was like, all right, cool. So we put this in here, and I start catching, and I was like, grab that, man, give it a shot. And it happened to have the same swim bait tied on it already. So he takes one cast. It's like, this thing casts amazing. He's like, I can't believe it. I'm like, cool, man, let's see what happens. He immediately
That's a good reel.
We had one of the best days. And that's the thing. It is a good reel. It's not a reel that's going to break the bank. You know, it really isn't. And it's one of those things where, like, you can toy around with some stuff and get it, you know, and figure it out. He was amazed, and he's looking around. He's like, I'm not sure what I should buy. I was like, if you're going to buy one, this is the direction I think you should go. But I was like, if I were you, I would start thinking about this as an extension of the spectrum of rods that you're using. That's how I look at my gear. Not job specific or technique specific necessarily. It's more about where on the spectrum do they go. And I look at everything and I'm like, that reel can come off and go elsewhere. Is that going to partner for this technique that much better? And I'll just make changes as I need to. And so, I mean, I don't know if I'm living a pipe dream or something, thinking that there are going to be people that want to learn specific techniques to go on, you know, fishing trips with this old son of a bitch. But hey, the offer's there. You know what I mean?
I think it'll be pretty cool. I mean, I often pick locals and I guide them unofficially, and I teach them how I fish specific techniques, or even use bait finesse, or even bait casting. Like, I don't know if you ever watched my video on how to cast a magnetic bait caster. I teach a total different method. A lot of people give you that old, you know, you tighten your tension knob all the way, you let the lure fall down very slow and stuff, right? That's a legacy method designed for centrifugal braking reels.
Yes.
With today's magnetic braking, you don't need to do all that. So my method is totally different. It teaches you how to understand the behavior, the magnetic braking behavior of your reel, right? And then from there, you could adjust to your sweet spot, and then you fiddle from there to to basically what your skill level of your thumb. So if you never watched that video before, I highly suggest you're watching it, because that's probably my best video of teaching anything to anyone when it comes to bait casting. And I think it'll fast track all your potential future clients in using a bait caster.
No, I agree. That's a major hurdle for a lot of people, is like getting into that world of, because the statement I always hear, or the thing I like to hear more often, is when people are like, these are tools. It's like they're used for different stuff. Like, you could put a nail in with a screwdriver, but it's probably easier if you use a hammer. You know what I mean? Or you could put, vice versa. You could put a screw in with a hammer, but it's definitely going to work better if you use a screwdriver type thing. Where, I feel like when you have an open mind and you try to learn the principles about what's going on versus like, turn this, do this, that's nice and easy to digest, but it doesn't always really teach you for like those gray areas, where things might get crazy. Let's talk species. I mean, we kind of touched on snakehead.
Okay.
What are your favorite species to target?
My top 3 species that I like to target around my area would be crabbies. Snakehead, but we already talked about that.
Oh yeah.
And then of course bass, because they're just so abundant around the area. But anything outside of the list, I'm a multi-species angler.
Yeah.
Okay. As long as I can throw a artificial lure and I can catch it, it's all game.
Yep. I love your trout fishing videos too. Like, thank you. You're out there, and I'm like the stuff where you're throwing on bait finesse stuff. You're throwing like trout magnets and stuff, and I'm like, dude, this is such a interesting way to use these really kind of classic lures, because those lures have been around a long time. And there's something where people are like, yeah, I've got a slip bobber and I throw this and I let it sit there or whatever, but this is an active style of fishing, and that's what I like so much about it. Let's talk about like your favorite techniques. Like, what are the specific techniques that you like to really lean on? Are you like one of these folks that's just like top water till I die?
So I think top water is definitely a great way to catch fish. It's most exciting. I'm not going to deny that I don't like top water, but I think I want to be more realistic. And I think if anyone needs a specific type of lure and style, it got to be a jig. It's most simple. You take a simple jig, you put any sort of plastic you want. Doesn't matter what brand or what, you guys choose. But for me, being able to cover the water column effectively is the key of catching fish, any predator fish. So I don't want to pick any specific brand. Sure. All I have to say is, if you could master choosing the right jig, weight, hook size, your right line diameter, and then you put the plastic that will descend to the right water column, you catch fish. And that's why you probably see me use a simple, 1/16 style jig head mostly, and a 2-inch swim bait, and I catch a lot of fish. And that's why I keep using that in any situation, any sort of trip that I have. I always have one rigged up. And most people that I bring out, I always have something like that. And I think everyone loves using those small swim baits after I show them how to catch fish with it. Yeah, I think I agree. That's a home run. Yeah, so I think the most difficult thing for people would be developing your own arsenal with the right jig heads, the right weights. And I think for most, the ultralight side, you can't go wrong if you go with 1/32, 1/16, and 1/8. Yeah, anything in that window. Yep. 100%. Anything in that window. So one of the things that Jigs and Bigs does that's really interesting is we do a series of tournaments online on Fishing Chaos. And there's bass tournaments. And what we like to do, because they're nationwide, we make it a slot limit series. So it's only fish from 12 to 17 inches that count. And we've been doing, this is by far the most popular platform that we have. The other one that's really, it's sort of like my baby. I love this. Is we do a multi-species scavenger hunt. And it's a month-long scavenger hunt. You enter, it's like $1 a day. You pay $30 each month. You compete for that whole month. And the idea is to catch as many species that are on the list. And there's 22. So, I mean, these are the most popular sport fish that are in the entire lower 48. There are pockets that are just anomalies, where it doesn't make sense. Like Southern Florida,
does not make sense for me. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? But if you have a month to do the tournament, and if you're willing to drive a couple of hours, you can probably find these species. And if you can't find all of them, like a good example like this say is blue cats. We don't have blue cats up here. Shit, we don't have flatheads up here. We don't. We have a bunch of different trout, which is cool. And there's a lot of other places that are out there. But a lot of people say the same thing. They're like, oh, I can't get the, pike like you guys have up there. I can't get this. And I was like, yeah, but you could probably catch those catfish. And we don't have those. Or what else is on that list? Oh, one that's tough around here. You don't catch a lot of walleye and saugeye.
Oh,
you don't, or in sauger, you just don't. They're not easy to come across up here. So it's one of those things where it's kind of interesting. And the one tip I've said to everybody is if you just select the right body of water where those fish are, and then you downsize whatever presentation is that you're throwing to open up the possibility that those variety of species will eat it, then it's just a matter of going through fish because they're going to bite. Like, oh yeah, this is twice this month. I've had a brown bullhead absolutely smoke a finesse swim bait like you were just talking about on like an 1/8 ounce jig head. Just absolutely smoke it. And I'm like, what is even happening here? When I need them and I'm in the scavenger hunt, I can't find them. I've got to throw hot dogs and stuff in order to get those things to bite. It is what it is. But it's nuts. And we're extending that where we're doing an open where it's instead of a month, it's 1 week. So you commit to 1 week in the springtime. And once you enter it, you don't even have to win it. You're eligible for the championship. So next May, we're doing our championship for the first time. We'll see how it goes.
Okay.
Should be pretty
that'll be really cool.
But like you said, you're a multi-species angler, and fishing that downsized stuff allows you to be super flexible,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I catch so many species in my lakes. I even catch shiners throwing those micro lures, like trout magnets. They bite those. The Euro tackle bivide, they bite those.
Mm-hmm. I am curious about, so where you are in the country, there is no shortage of pickerel, chain pickerel. And there's no short, it's one of the three native fish in Massachusetts. Chain pickerel, yellow perch, and brook trout. They're the only three native freshwater fish in Massachusetts.
Same here for New Jersey.
Yeah. So where you're at, what's your relationship with chain pickerel?
I like chain pickerels because they are very aggressive. They fight really well, but sometimes, they do take my lures.
Sure.
One good example is when I first was introduced to the Timco Glimmer 7. It's the OG hover strolling hard bait. Oh, okay. And they're pretty expensive. You get that from Bait Finesse Empire. I basically lost 3 of them in 5 casts.
Oh, dude, that sucks.
So imagine $15 a piece and you lost all of them, right? So, yeah.
I've felt that pain before. One of my favorite, I would say probably before I was even aware of bait finesse fishing, I did a trip to Chickamauga with Caleb Bell, and it was a tough day. Like, we went out the morning where the night previous there was like It was like a 45-minute long thunderstorm, and I think it dropped 2.5 inches of rain. It was ridiculous. Like, it was just like dumping buckets of rain overhead. It was insane. There were tornado warnings. Like, I was with my buddy Paul. He was freaking the fuck out, dude. It was so ridiculous.
It sounds scary too. You never know what happens when you're fishing in that type of conditions.
Oh yeah. Well, and we were just at the hotel, and the place where we were staying, the lodging was at a tackle shop. It was like the top floor. Okay. It's like they rent them out on Airbnb. It was awesome. It was so nice. Talk and Tackle is the name of the shop. If you're in Tennessee, Talk and Tackle is the spot. Go, trust me. And so it was a tough bite, and they were like, it was one of these things where the water was so dirty that they would bite, but you just had to hit them right in the head, and you needed something that vibrated enough to get their attention. And Caleb looks at me. He's like, dude, throw this. And he hands me a spinning rod. And I was like, all right, cool. What's this? And it's a tiny bladed jig from Jackal, the Dara Break. Dude, what, right? It's so good. But again, living in America, this is tough. Now, Talk and Tackle is a Jackal dealer. I go marching in there right away, and I'm like, I'm buying you out. Like, I cleaned house with this. I'm like, this is great. I'm like, I've got spinning gear. I can throw this thing all day. This would be awesome when the bite's tough. Absolutely right. Dude, I looked high and low all over that shop, and they're like, yeah, we're sold out. So I'm like, okay, no sweat. We go online. Could not find them anywhere. I did find some on Digitaka. They were not exactly what I was looking for. They weren't the color I was looking for, and they were a little bit larger. They were 3/16 ounce. But I was like, I'm going to do it just because, like, I got to take a shot. I got to put some of these in my arsenal. And I like fishing these with a very specific plastic trailer. It's from J Bros. It's a Ned bait called the Double Trouble, and it's a straight tail, twin tail grub. And it is money. It's money. It's so good. So I finally get some of these, and this is fast forward, but this is about like 6 months. I'm at the Columbus Fishing Expo with Dark Horse Tackle. We're over there, and there happens to be a JDM booth, like specializing in JDM gear, right next door. And the guy that owns this was such a nice dude. He was so like, so what are you looking for? I'm like, I'm looking for these like small bladed jigs from Jackall. And he goes like, the Darabreak? I was like, yeah. He goes, these? And he had them in the size I was looking for and the colors. They were They were jackhammer money. Like they were $17 a pop. I bought them all. And the thing is, I would fish a lot of this stuff that time of year, early spring. I wasn't taking my kayak out yet. I was on the bank. I have felt the pain of losing some of those lures to some chain pickerel, or even worse, just snag. Like when you're on the bank, you snag something and you're like, you son of a bitch. But now we're seeing more innovation where you're seeing a lot of different brands that are have different offerings. Like now Z-Man's got theirs as far as a true finesse bladed jig out there. HH Customs has theirs that's really great. Pig Jigs has some real unique stuff. Like you're starting to see this, and that's just the way it works. Like you get a little bit of innovation, and then people start putting little tweaks on things left and right. That Pig Jigs bladed jigs, it's the ulated, one of my favorite trout lures. It's one of my favorite trout lures, and it's the hook shape is just so perfect for that tiny mouth. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just awesome, and it's so compact. Yeah.
Have you ever tried the Mukai Bee Chatter?
I've never heard of it.
That was the lure that I blew up, and Z-Man basically shut it down very quick because it has the name Chatter on it. So it basically, yeah. And then eventually I decided to show people how to make one because I do a lot of wire bending, right? Oh, yeah. And I show people that you could buy a specific blade on AliExpress and on eBay, and then you use whatever weights you want. You could use your tungsten beads, right? Because there's a lot of like tungsten bead for the fly fishing world, or you use like very small cone heads, like tungsten cone heads, and you could bend the entire contraption together, and then you throw on a hook, and you have the Mukai Bee Chatter.
Gotcha.
And so, yeah, that lure was amazing, but it was also very, very expensive.
I believe it.
But yeah. Z-Man started looking into a lot more of these things. Yep. I mean, they have their own version for the ultralight side, the Flashback Mini, which comes in a 16th ounce and an 8th ounce. Yep. And of course, I don't know if you have heard recently, I did work with Z-Man to come out with they call it BFS Chatterbait, which is the Micro Max, which comes in 3/16 and a 1/4 ounce. It's a small skirted bladed swim jig, not as small as the Darabreak, but I think in the American waters it worked really well. Oh yeah! But hopefully, maybe one day we could get a smaller version that's closer to the Darabreak. That's going to be like maybe a 1/8 ounce, I believe, for the Darabreak.
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of those companies that their efforts are when it comes to bass fishing, it's more like tournament fishing, and it's sometimes it's a hard sell to make somebody realize that that 16th ounce is going to be highly effective, and some people it's just they look at it as like, how many units are we actually going to be able to sell of this? It's a little bit fringe, right. But I think once you get folks that are a little bit more comfortable, and maybe it starts with throw a 16th ounce ball head jig with your favorite plastic and try swimming that, because once you throw a blade on it, it's it's the same thing. Once you build confidence, you can grow from there. So just throw lighter shit, and I find that I will say this: I'm an angler, and I don't know, maybe you think I'm crazy, but I'm an angler that thinks that the extremes work best. when it's really tough. So you can throw something that's really, really big, or you throw something that's really, really small, and then it's a contrast against that conventional stuff that the vast majority of people are out there throwing.
Oh yeah, definitely. Which is why I gravitate for mainly finesse fishing. And then when the cooler season comes, right, when I don't have that crazy swamp allergy, I throw the big glide baits. I love throwing those too.
Have you ever tinkered with some of the? That's one thing. I'm glad you mentioned glide baits. You made me think of this immediately. There's a couple of brands of what folks have I guess loosely kind of coined as like BFS glide baits. These are small glides. Okay. I think Stoneman Lures has one. I've got a couple of them in my box, and I have thrown them, and the action is out of this world, and it's crazy. I'm just like, the confidence level isn't there. Have you tinkered at all with any of these?
I play with a few, like Arab Baits has one, two now, because they had the jointed one. We have the Max Raptor, that one that got unfortunately copied by AliExpress folks. But my favorite one right now is from Jackal. Yep. It's the Baby Garon. It's a little heavier side. It's about a quarter ounce. Yeah. But I think the swimming and also sink rate and the shape of a bluegill just get those bass triggered.
Oh, for sure.
Right? So given that I'm pretty much fishing around my area, that's like my number one bait finesse glide bait.
Yep. No, that's awesome.
One bait. Yeah.
I love that. Let's talk. You primarily catch and release, right?
Yep.
Now, when you do harvest, what's your favorite fish?
No doubt about it. It's going to be summer flounder, because I live in the coastal side, right? So we have fluke fishing, and I've done a lot of fluke fishing, even bait finesse style or power finesse style from the surf or kayak.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think personally, I think that saltwater fishing is always a better food source than anything freshwater can offer. 100%. Oh yeah. There's no comparison whatsoever. For freshwater, do you lean a specific way? Are you like crappies are the best thing swimming, or are you more of a trout guy?
For eating freshwater fish, well, so let's jump back for a second and let's talk about fish in general when it comes to freshwater, right? So a lot of fish has a scale of earthiness. Basically, if the higher that level, that means the more it will take on the smell and flavor of the water they're in. Sure. So bass is very high in it. Sunfish is high in it. But, crappies, because they like to suspend in open water, they don't taste as bad as bass. But if you catch crappies in, stinky water, it's the same thing. Yep. You catch bass in, let's say, a big reservoir with, rocky bottom, smallmouth bass and stuff. People say they taste awesome. Yeah. Unfortunately, I have never tried it because, I'm not in that fishery. Sure. But if I had to eat any sort of freshwater fish, open water crappies, that's very good. Yellow perch, that's good. Yep. I would say trout. Trout's pretty good, but they have to be like the ones eating the freshwater shrimp. I can't have those farm raised ones because there is a huge difference. I don't know if you ever taste, trout that's in streams that doesn't have, that shrimp or crustacean versus, let's say they stock trout in specific reservoirs that have those.
When they're eating the pellets. Right? Yeah, exactly. That's it's a whole other ball game. Yeah. You catch something native. Lastly,
I gotta ask snakehead. Yeah. Snakehead. So snakehead is very interesting because a lot of people say they're from like swamps too, like you catch it any sort of water. And the thing is, they're like catfish, where you take out the skin and scale. It does not smell like any water it came out from, which is why they're prized in Asia for a good food source. And in fact, that's how they came here in the U.S. They used to farm raise them in Arkansas.
Oh, no kidding! I always figured that they were. It was the pet industry where people were like, these are cool fish. I want to have them in my house, and then they outgrew the tank, and then that's where things went sideways.
So a lot of the pet size one, there's so many different species. I think the very popular one, there's some colorful ones from Africa and Southeast Asia, right? Sure, there were risks, but I think the biggest one was when they farm raised northern snakeheads in Arkansas, and then when that farm broke and they had to go and try to catch them and poison different parts of Arkansas. That's when they outlawed it in general because they had so many species, and that's when they outlawed specifically China August, which is northern snakeheads, and people are still bringing them in. They brought them in to Asian supermarkets, and the way they smuggle them in is crazy. They would just have like big tubs with no water in it, but they have like wet towels and maybe some ice on it because it breathes air directly. And they would smuggle them in and then put them in supermarkets.
No shit. That's wild. That's wild to even consider. And it's funny. I've only ever caught one snakehead. This was it was spring of 24. It was April, and this was the best year. This is the best month of fishing I've ever had. It was crazy. I caught a 7-pound largemouth up here. Caught a 24-inch brown trout, BFS on the brown trout, and I caught my first snakehead. And it was an absolute monster. And I was fishing with a friend of mine. It was in Jersey. It was in southern Jersey. And I'm like, I'm not supposed to release this, right? I was like, we're gonna eat them. We're gonna go for it. So I go and I'm cleaning them, and this fish had so many parasites in him that I was like, we have a whole other day, because we were camping, and I'm like, this could be bad. Like, this could ruin the trip, potentially. I'm like, I don't think that's a good idea. Let's offer it up to another animal that might take advantage of it. So we fed him to some turtles, is what we did.
Gotcha.
And I was like, man, you got it. Because I mean, if it was the last day and we weren't planning on a full day of fishing the next day, because we had that and then another night of camping, I'm like, I'm sleeping in my truck. Last thing I have to do is be stuck in my truck for the entire day. I was like, this is going to be brutal. Let's do this the right way. And it was so. I am definitely going to have to try snakehead. My friend Becca Yassine also said that snakehead is absolutely to die for. She's like, it is delicious.
I fished with her. In fact, I put her on her first snakehead. She came down and fished with me in Todd.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah, they're a pair, man. All right, I'll tell you.
It was fun because we ended up cooking it at the Holiday Inn parking lot, which is right by Wawa. So we basically did cooking and cleaning at the parking lot in the middle of July. It was hot.
Didn't you guys did a simple fry and then had like some sweet like Thai chili sauce with it or something maybe?
Yep, Thai chili sauce mixed with sriracha.
Yep. So. Dude, you're speaking my language. I love that. You and I have to fish. We have to make this happen. Jersey is not very far from me. It's like realistically like a 3 to 4, depending on where, it's like a 3 to 4 hour drive max. And I can come down with the boat. You tell me what body of water, we'll send it. We'll make it happen. We'll collab on some video content. It'll be absolutely awesome. But before we wrap up, I know that you have a time crunch here. I want to get to these last 2 questions right here. And it's a single question, but it's a 2-parter. So I'm looking for 2 stories. That's what Jigs and Bigs is really all about when we do these segments, is sharing fishing stories. So I'm looking for like whatever the moment is that you were like most proud of on the water. Like it's that story that you would think of if you were at like a wedding or an event and you go up to the bar to get a drink and somebody's like, hey, Jimmy, so-and-so told me that you fish. Like what's that story you're going to lead with? And then the other story, and this is the harder one to figure out what you're going to tell, is the one with the biggest epic fail.
Okay. So I guess when it comes to a lot of my fishing, I guess I would bring out my most recent one because I don't do a lot of this type of fishing, which is saltwater fishing. Yep. And I'll talk about that in my second story. So recently, Todd invited me to go fishing up in New York. Okay. He basically works as a mate at the Gypsy and to do fluke fishing. And this is going to be like completely different because I've done fluke fishing back bays. I've done it on surf, but he's telling me that it's going to be out in the ocean side. So deeper water, deep water jigging. Yep. So going there, not knowing how I'm going to do, I packed myself with some gears. Yep. Right? And I went up. And then I went up very early because he said you have to go in the front in order to get the most out of it, to get the best casting and everything. So I went pretty early. I woke up 3 a.m. in the morning. I drove up to New York at Brooklyn, right? Yep. And I think I have to be proud listening to people because a lot of folks, especially anglers, right? The hardest thing to do is to just say, hey, look, man, I know I can fish. I spend a lot of time fishing. I could do this and I don't need to listen to anyone else. Like that's a lot of people, right? Sure. But for me to put everything down, because as you know, I'm very technical, right? So I have a lot of pride in a lot of things I do, but I know where I stand when it comes to this type of fishing. It's totally new to me. So as I'm fishing, I'm listening to folks next to me, or Todd will come back and forth because Todd is a great guy, nice guy, and he'll give me some tips because he's been working on a ship for a while. He sees people, he helps people, right? He knows what to do, and he knows what I'm going for, which is big fish.
Sure. So
I caught basically my limit already, 3 fish. Well, it was two fish. Okay. But I need one more fish, and I want to catch a big fish.
Yeah.
So he rigs me up the way that he would fish for big fish. And I was like, man, this is gigantic stuff. I'm a BFS guy, right? But I did it anyway, and I actually landed big fish of the trip.
Oh, really? Dude, nice.
Yep. And I won $260, baby.
That's not bad at all, man.
Oh, no, man. It's amazing.
Good for you. That's a great story.
I think the biggest moral story of that trip is, look, there's so many different fishing out there, right?
Yep.
And you just got to be open-minded on using different tackle and different ways to fish. And when someone offers you knowledge, especially when they are in it more than you have, you just got to stand back and just listen.
Have an open mind,
right? Yeah.
I love that,
so
dude.
I let him help me rig up, and I was like, let's go.
That's beautiful. I love that. That's a great story. That's freaking awesome.
Now,
what about the epic fail?
So the other one is going to be a little bit more sad and a little darker. In fact, this is why I made the last story a lot better, is that you never know what happens when you go out on the water. So in 2016, I went out to fish with 2 buddies of mine.
Yep.
We went to Barnegat Bay. We went in a skiff to do flounder fishing.
Yep.
And it was a slow day, and we were pretty much at the last drift. And when we were heading towards last drift, try to reposition, we got ran over by a boat, and one of my friends did not make it.
Oh my God! For real?
Yes.
Holy shit!
It's actually changed my life completely.
I bet. I bet.
I'm living with, you could say, PTSD, and it impacts me more than just fishing, being on the water. You know, driving, it's been difficult. But it impacts my life a lot, and it made going back to saltwater fishing a lot more difficult.
I'm sure it did. Oh my God.
I avoided for a long time. And for me to go up to New York, driving that far to get
to go catch, on a charter boat
again, and then catching the big fish of the day made it
a little
my proudest moment for the past few months. So,
dude, that's heavy shit, man. I am so sorry you had to experience that. That is insane, and it's tough. I don't have a lot of experience on the ocean. I have taken my kayak out on the ocean, and I will tell you, those boats are rigged. No matter how small your vessel is, they can see you, and they don't give a fuck. They do not. And this is why I won't do it again. Not like that. I will take my Lund out where I at least have a little bit more of a fucking shot getting out of the way, because it is intense. I am sorry, man. That is crazy. Wow, that is nuts, buddy. Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, it was.
That is, yeah. So, I mean, I could definitely understand where that would affect you long term, and I mean, that's wrestling with that has got to not be easy. But if there's a positive, you got back on the horse. You know what I mean? And this last trip up with Todd, that's huge. So, congratulations!
It's a huge win for me.
It is for sure, man. Wow, that's intense. Oh, wow. Again, we're coming close up to your time crunch, but do everybody a favor, and if they want to check out your social media, where is the best place to reach out and contact you if they've got any questions or anything like that? Do you have anything coming up that you want to tease a little bit?
Sure. So let's start off with my social media platforms.
Yep.
I am on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. You guys can find me at Rawr Fishing, RAWR Fishing. I guess DMs on Instagram. It's a lot easier to discuss on that platform for messaging. But most of my stuff, I spend most of my time these days on YouTube.
Yep.
I put most information on YouTube, and then I use Facebook and Instagram kind of like secondary, where I dump photos and shorter clips that really promotes mainly my YouTube channel.
For sure.
Plans. My upcoming plans, I am actually going to be fishing with someone very special known as the father of bait finesse. I'm not going to drop his name out because right now in the fishing community, there's a confusion of who that is. But for those who knows bass fishing, knows who it is. But I have a schedule on a calendar to go fish with him.
That's awesome.
And then he's going to tell me a little bit more history of bait finesse and how he developed bait finesse. And show me techniques, basically, how he's using bait finesse to fish in American tournaments right now as he is touring the U.S.
That's amazing, dude. That sounds freaking awesome. I'm looking forward to it, dude. I'm really looking forward to it. Jimmy, this is really awesome. Thank you so much for being part of the show, man, and sharing so much with us. You guys go and follow Raw Fishing. Do yourself a favor. Go follow him right now. And we'll be back with more Jigs and Bigs in just a bit. Don't go too far.
Smart Water Alkaline with antioxidant.
Whoa, that's refreshing.
And a 9.5 plus pH for every way you move.
I did take a spin class today.
Restoring like a pro. Smart Water Alkaline with antioxidant. For those with a taste for taste. Grab yours today.
Hi there. Welcome to the Live Well, where we crack open a Ramp beer and attempt to answer all of your burning questions.
Alrighty, guys. Bobby friggin' roast beef, man. What a good segment. Thank you. Big shout out and thanks to Jimmy again for being part of the show. He and I have to make some plans in fishing. And actually, you know what? If I'm smart, I'll make one trip to Jersey count twice. And if I'm smart, I'll do this the right way. I'll go down, I'll fish with Jimmy, and then I'll fish with Chris and Brandon, and then we'll be in business. We'll be in business if I was smart. And then I'll hit Talercio's too on my way down because your boy might be less fat, but he's still fat. You know what I'm saying? It's true. It's very true. Anyway, here we are on the Live Well. Ramp beer is cracked. We are ready to go. Let's have a little conversation. This first call comes in from Matt Thayer.
Gentlemen, Matt Thayer from Southern Rhode Island of Klondike Custom Creations fame. I was listening to this week's podcast, and you, yourself, Bobby, and Vinya were talking about the slot tournament. So I developed a little bit of a mindset. I learned something in June when I won, and me being a regular Live Well 5-fish limit tournament fisherman for decent amount of time now. I've thought about mindset a lot, and my fishing mentor of mine, one of them, but my main fishing mentor, he always tells me it's you against the fish. It's not you against anybody else. And fishing alone on a body of water and not against necessarily somebody else on that same body of water and putting up better numbers than those other people, it gives you gives myself a confidence aspect. It gives myself a better, overall mindset that I am trying to go out and I'm trying to catch as many of these fish as I can. And no, I haven't fished a Live Well tournament since the past couple of slot tournaments. But I've developed more of a mindset of not worrying about what everybody else is doing, and whatever else is going on the water. I'm just worried about what is in front of me, fishing what is in front of me, fishing for those fish, fishing when I need to complete a bag, so on and so forth. And it's done a lot for confidence, and it's done a lot for me mentally in the tournament aspect. Not saying that I can't go get spun out on a Live Well tournament or another slot tournament, but it's helped me out a decent amount. So I appreciate it, and I encourage anybody and everyone to go fish both of the Jigs and Bigs tournaments, and I would love to see you on the slot tournaments as well. So that's my little spiel. Hope somebody learned something. Hope to see some more people in the slot tournaments come August, and I'm coming for all of you guys. Just throwing it out there. I'm still coming for you. All right, you guys have a good one. Thanks for letting me call in, and I'll talk to you soon. Yeah.
That's awesome, Matt. I appreciate the call, dude. And I got to tell you, he is right. He's 100% right. If you change your outlook and you just focus on what you can control, and that's you and the fish and figuring out that, then all you can do at the end of the day is take whatever the results are and go with it. It makes perfect sense. I will say this, for a live well tournament, there's this air of mystery because you don't know necessarily what other people are doing. Like, even if you see another angler and they're like, oh yeah, we're catching them, we got a box full of whatever, they could be bullshitting totally. When it comes to CPR, it's a little bit different because you have to submit those fish, and the temptation to look at the leaderboard is there. Sometimes you just see a couple of those things right there, but I get what you're saying. Now, what's interesting, I will say this, Sean did a little experiment. Sean's lived a lot of life. He's had many experiments, but he did this one experiment, this one stretch of tournaments where he shut the leaderboard off. Like, it wasn't available on the app, and overwhelmingly people hated it because they wanted to be able to have the ability of keeping tabs. But I'll tell you this much, guys. One of the reasons why he had made this decision was because there were people who sandbag. They catch all these fish, they get all these picks, they just don't enter them until they get to whatever point. Like, they get to a spot, they drop a bunch of fish. They get to another spot, they could be sitting on who knows. And while that might infuriate some, if you're looking just to kind of keep tabs at the overall, the overall progress of the tournament, it can also, it doesn't let you know that, how the field could potentially be doing. If somebody's on a run and they're legitimately putting stuff in here, you're like, all right, so what is it that's going on? Maybe this is somebody where you're like, well, I have to talk to this person and find out what is it that they're doing. Maybe I can learn something from it. So there is a benefit to being, to having that data in front of you, but you have to take it with a grain of salt. And I will say that from what I understand, overwhelmingly people hated it. They like to have the leaderboard there. And I think it was, I want to say it might have even been Nelson, who was just like, oh, not having that leaderboard, I was just fishing so hard, just boom, 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 boom. And then, at first, Sean, I believe, took that as oh, that's awesome. Having it, he was like, yeah, I was in it. I was just bang, 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 bang. And he had it mixed up. He goes, no, he didn't like it because he was it was just constant anxiety, just constantly pushing. And I can understand where that can be kind of tricky. The nice thing is with CPR stuff is that some of these apps may have some features where you can block that stuff. Or if you've just got the willpower, don't look at the leaderboard. Submit your catch and then put your phone back in your pocket or put it back in your PFD or wherever you're storing it, something like that. And just don't look at that. But one of the things, and I know exactly what Matt's talking about, he's talking about the fact that we were aware that John Thompson was absolutely mopping the floor with us on the same body of water. That's the instance he's talking about right there. And it makes it tough. It makes it very tough. But it's much easier to get spun out when you're focused on the whole thing and you lose the ability to concentrate on the task at hand, which is put the fish in the boat. Ultimately, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. John Hagen says, he goes, I think I'm the same way, especially with my catfish tourneys. I'm not trying to outsmart other fishermen. I'm trying to outsmart trophy cats, especially this month. Finicky flatheads are always a tough outing. That's a really good point because it's true. You're not necessarily, if there is a competition with other anglers, if nothing, it's going to be I'm fishing this spot. But at the same time, sometimes you don't have any control of that. Sometimes you pick that number and there was X number of boats that were out there before you in the spot you were planning on going. So that's why you have to be adaptable. Other times, if it's something that's nationwide, somebody just picks the right day and they're out on a monthly, something like that. Somebody's out on the right day where the conditions are just perfect for a big bite and they're out throwing at the right body of water, and that big fish just happens. There's so many variables, and you can really only control with what your interactions are with the fish. That's a really good point, John. Finicky Flatheads. Fuck it. That sounds like a good band. So let's go ahead and move on. All right. Our next call, this one comes in. This one's from Eli. Let's see what Eli has to say there.
Hey guys, Eli here. Another question for the live well. As you're looking at bait casting reels, because I'm trying to currently upgrade my reels, what are the things you're looking for? I know sometimes it can be hard to read through kind of like the marketing BS that companies put on. And also some of the things that I used to think, or at least one thing I used to think was so important was drag. Now I've gotten to the point where I just I click the button and then thumb the spool instead of relying so much on that drag. So I used to think like, oh, it used to have this, it has to have this much drag. And now I'm like, well, if I thumb the spool, I don't need to worry about the drag as much. So what are those things that you're looking for in a new reel when you're trying to compare the reels?
Oh, man. So if we're talking bait casting reels, I got to be honest with you. If we're talking bait casting reels, it's more or less like it's like build quality. If you don't have experience with a specific reel or you don't have experience with like a variety of reels to call on and say like, oh, this line has like this build quality is really good. This feels good in hand. I can feel like there's quality. You know what I mean? That's a big one. As far as like everybody's like a lot of people get hung up, like a lot of new anglers get hung up too on like the number of bearings, and that's really not a good guide. Like people, the reel companies will advertise that like, oh, that's got 37 bearings, blah 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 blah. Like that's somehow that much better, and it might seem that way, I guess. I think for me the biggest thing is comfort in the hand. Because when you're holding this thing, like when I fish with a bait casting reel, I palm the reel as much as I can. When those 200 plus size reels, like the 300, those are not. I'm not palming them that way, that effectively. So like those, it's a bit different. But for the smaller reels, like those 150s and below, like my BFS stuff, I'm looking for comfort. Like I want to know that it's there. I also. Based on the price, I want to know that the build quality is there. That's a big one for me. So, like, I wouldn't go drop $250 on another bait cast reel if I didn't know that Daiwa Tatula had the reputation that it does. You know what I'm saying? And I think that for me, there's sort of a relationship, the cost to quality. What am I willing to pay for such and such a reel? And lots of times it's like I have to take that into consideration. Like, so what is the cost overall? And is the build quality and the reputation? So like, I look at a lot of reviews, to be honest with you. I really do. I look at a lot of reviews and I know that the review system is just flawed in general, but I take the information for like what it's worth. That's a big one, that I try to pay attention to is I try to focus on what people have experienced. And I also talk to the people directly that I know. So if I know somebody, like a good example is like Joe. Joe's used like so many different brands of everything coming from that retail world. So I'll ask him, hey, what do you think of this? And if he's like, they're okay, they're all right. Actually, Joe is how I got into the 13 fishing stuff. I have a number of 13 fishing concept A's. I have 3 of them. And I was like just a big, like, Corrado slut, big time. And I was looking to, get some other reels, upgrade some reels. And then I was putting together like technique specific rods, like my swim bait rod and my frog rod. And I was like, I'm looking to do some stuff here and get into this. What do you think is a good, equivalent? Now, overall, like he even said, he was like, he's like, I don't know that the build quality is necessarily there compared to Shimano, but as far as performance goes, he's like, I think it's probably comparable. And I love my concept days. They're great. I've caught tons of fish on them. There is one reel that I had a concept day that I use that's a little bit funky, but I think that's an isolated situation. Smooth casting is a absolute like must have, and that's what I consider. Now, Spinning reels is a bit different. Spinning reels, what I'm looking for with a spinning reel is basically, I am looking at the drag system on spinning gear. I really am kind of looking at the drag system there. I am looking at more or less like the two important things are, is this the size and weight of the reel that I want to put on this specific rod? Like, so is this, 2,500 or 3,000 reel, is this weight light enough for what I'm looking for to make this comfortable to fish with all day long? If I'm going to drop shot, what are we doing? Or do I need to, if it's too heavy, will I size down a little bit, and consider the techniques that I'm using? Something along that will definitely come into play. And then cost with spinning reels, because I will not put the effort into my spinning reels for maintaining them. I will swap out my spinning reels like every few years. And just go ahead and I've been actually really good to my other ones lately. I think part of that comes with the fact that I'm using reel covers on all my stuff, so I feel like they're in pretty good shape. So that kind of definitely helps. Let's chime in. We got John Hagens chimes in right here. He goes, I use larger bait cast reels. My ancient Mariner 6000s, my God, that's a big reel, dude, have been amazing. Good drag and braking systems, and they're cost effective. They have been putting trophy-sized cats on the bank with no issue. That's badass. He says also ultra smooth casting as well, and that I think is really important. I think it's really, really important. I think that also when you're looking at different reels with different features, like, What's really the deal is it important to you? There are some people who are so tied up with the aesthetic of how does this reel look with the rod I'm putting it on. And I'm not one of those guys. I'm not. But if that's important to you, maybe you'll feel better about your gear when you're out there. You're not going to be second guessing yourself or something. I will tell you, there was one time I did notice when my Arc bait finesse rod was down and out, and I was waiting for the replacement. I actually took my Daiwa to Tula, my BF70, and I put it on my Shimano Majestic XT. That was a sexy looking combo, because overall the Tatula is black, but it has red accents, and that Majestic rod is a red blank with black accents on the handle and over by the guides, and it looked so good together. But I had to put it back on the Bass Finesse rod when it came in. I had to. But that's a rod that looks amazing as well. It is all black. It is jet black end to end. So you put any kind of reel on that, and it's gonna match. It's gonna look great. So I think that, like, whatever it is that's important to you, factor that in there. For some people, it's all budget. I refuse to spend more than X amount of dollars on a reel. Okay, if that's what's important to you, then that's what's important to you. That's cool. Do what you got to do, For other people, they want to make a purchase, but they want to know that, like, the company that they're purchasing from will stand behind their product. So, like, warranty is something to definitely consider. For other folks, they want to know, like me, build quality. Like, I just want to know that what I'm buying is, like, reliable and can hold up to a little bit of abuse. It's part of the reason why I bought a Toyota, why I bought a 4Runner, to be perfectly honest. That same thinking right there is reliability. It's a big deal. So that's just for me. Binya goes, weight is huge on spinning, because you end up with the claw if it's not a good setup, and light. Yeah, you're right, dude. It really is. Size of the reel. So if I'm looking at like a 25, if I'm looking for a 3,000 reel, let's say, something in that ballpark, but the rod that I'm going to put it on is like super duper light, and maybe the one reel I'm looking at has like, it's a slightly heavier, that I might want to reconsider either downsizing to a 2,500 to get it in a weight that's a little bit better and more enjoyable, or I might want to look at a different reel if it's got to be a 3,000. You know what I'm saying? So there's always options. You just got to figure it out and figure out what's important to you. And when you're a new angler making these kinds of purchases, sometimes it's not so much about like choosing a reel as much as you're figuring out what's important to you. in the situation like with Eli. He was like, for me, it was always drag. How much? What's the drag rated for? Something like that. I get that, you know, and it also depends on how you're fishing, what you're doing, you know, something like that. So yeah, I think that's a really, really good question, Eli. But yeah, for me, I would definitely say build quality is probably number one, and that relationship with cost for sure comes into play. Let's go ahead. We got a question that came in from Dave. Dave Urkey, what do we got?
Bobby, Joe, this is a question for the live well, I think. I don't know if I'm doing this right, but it really has nothing to do with fishing. I got a question. Who here grew up with their coffee in the freezer when you're not using it? The coffee grounds themselves. Do you guys do this to keep it fresh? Also, I think my parents were weird. They used to put batteries in the fridge to keep the charge. I don't know if that's a fact or not, but I don't know. It's just something odd. And I was curious if either one of you guys had any experience with this. Do you want to say hi to Bobby and Joe?
Yeah.
Say hi, Bobby and Joe.
Hi, Bobby and Joe.
All right. Have a good day. Bye.
Man, that's awesome. Dave, I love this question. I love this question because it's not a fishy question, but I'll tell you what. So first off, the batteries in the fridge. Okay, I don't know if scientifically it carries any relevance at all. I don't know, but that is for the longest time was I would say like a common, almost like an urban myth, because when I was a kid, it was not weird to see like a brick of like double A's. And you know what I mean? And it was like that brick of batteries was for the remote in the living room. And if you touched them, God damn it, you know, and it was because you're like, oh, we only use them so often. So we buy them because the price is right, but we want them to last. They don't refrigerate batteries when you buy them. That should tell you everything you have to know. I'm just saying. The thing with the coffee is this. I used to put my coffee in the freezer. I did. I used to keep my coffee in the freezer. And I did a little bit of lurking around with this. Come to find out, leaving even your whole bean coffee, but leaving ground coffee especially in the freezer is bad because it can introduce mold. What'll happen is that bag will fluctuate with condensation. Not while it's in the freezer, but when you take it out to make coffee, you scoop a little bit out and everything, you get whatever air is in there. And when you close it back up, it's not airtight anymore. You know what I mean? So you end up with this, it's almost like condensation will build up. And it actually will spoil your coffee. It'll have a negative impact on your coffee. So I learned that when I kept, this was actually right about the time where I decided to switch to whole bean and grind my coffee before I make it. When I camp, I take whole bean coffee with me. People look at me like I'm crazy. And I'm like, I have a 400 watt AC outlet in the back of my truck. That is there to do two things: charge batteries and grind my coffee. 100%. John Hagen says batteries always in the fridge when he was a kid. 100%. But he and we're right about the same age, and that was a very, very common thing. And then Binion chimes in. He goes, I'm pretty sure battery in freezer kills them. I've had batteries that were brand new that didn't work after being in my jet sled ice fishing after just a day. Really? Huh. I know that there were a lot of people that, he says, they made batteries different back in the 1900s. They definitely did. You remember when they first came out with, I think it was Energizer, and then I think Duracell followed afterwards. There was a little strip on the back of the battery, and you could put a finger on each side and press in, and that strip would show you the level of charge in the battery. Oh, my God. It's crazy. Yeah, don't keep your batteries in there, because they don't, it's not like they get shipped on like a refrigerated truck. They don't, you know? They just, that's the thing. And same thing with your coffee. Buy whole bean, grind it, keep it in a cool, dry place. You'll be good. Trust me, you'll love it. You'll love it. Wait, you didn't use candles? Oh, Eli. My goodness. No, we had gas lamps. Eli is what we had. You know, we had gas lines that came to the house. You'd light that lamp every day and huddle around the lamp so we could read to each other, you know, ancient texts and perform alchemy in the backyard. Battery operated candles, buddy. That's awesome. I think we have one more call. This is another one from Eli. We have one more message to get to in our live well right here. This one is Eli's second one. And this is our last call for the live well. So let's go ahead. Let's see what Eli has to say here.
Hey, it's Eli. Got a question for the live well. When you were throwing a bait and you missed on that first bait and you throw that follow-up bait, is there one bait that you specifically always throw as a follow-up, or does that depend on what the first bait that you were throwing is? Have a good day. See you.
That's a great question right there. It's 100% a great question. So there's two ways of looking at that, I think. I think that you can do that with something that you have confidence in, but I also think there's a situational usage. So maybe that might make your choice of follow-up baits a couple of different options. So, for instance, a couple of them that I will often throw as a follow-up will be a downsize, like a finesse jig or a Ned rig, right? Something along those lines. Something that's still kind of compact, nothing huge. And I'll throw that in a situation where where there's maybe a little bit of depth. Or like I like throwing a lot of EWG Neds specifically. So where if there's some like a lay down or something like that, or even as I'll say like if I want something that's got a little bit of a weight to it, but the next example is going to blow that one out of the water when I say this. But so the other one that I'll throw a lot is some type of a stick bait. So it might be a wacky rig, weightless. It might be a weighted wacky rig. If again we're dealing with a situation where we have depth, and I think that's what I'm trying to say there, or make the point of, is that sometimes like I'm going to make adjustments for what I'm fishing with, but lots of times it's going to fall into that situation where it's either going to be like a compact jig or a Ned, something like that, like a finesse jig, or it'll be a weightless soft plastic like a stick bait, something along those lines. I try to not make my follow-up bait ever another moving bait, because lots of times when I'm exercising with that, I'm not going to, like if I have a blow up on a jig and I miss it, I'm probably not going to throw like a lipless crank, like just because, you know what I'm saying? I'll probably just put that jig right back in there, or I might hold off and come back after that area's kind of cooled down a little bit and try that. What I'm talking about is if I'm like a big confidence bait for me for a mover is a bladed jig, or now a spinner bait. Let's say any of those. If I'm running those baits and I miss a bite, I'm going to follow up with most likely a finesse jig or a stick bait. And if let's say I'm fishing grass and I'm ripping a chatterbait through the grass, I'm probably going to be throwing a Texas rig chatterbait into that a Texas rig stick bait into that grass versus a wacky, or I might throw like a small EWG Ned, something like that. Yeah, Eli says was throwing a swim jig at the time. That makes perfect sense. So yeah, again, if I'm throwing a swim jig, I'm probably going to just flip a wacky in there, something that I can do. And part of it is just having it quick. That's just sort of the name of the game, especially like with topwater. And Binya says a swim jig follow with a worm. There you go. Makes sense. Let's see what we got here. Oh, he says wacky or jig depending on depth and cover. And I think that's a big deal. It's like you have the confidence with these follow-up baits, but I think that if you were to say like, nope, I'm always going to follow with this out of sheer confidence, might necessarily not be the right move. I think you got to look at the situation and then figure out, what it works. Like if you're fishing super shallow, you don't have to worry about the weight. But like I have been really enjoying throwing wackies on those core tackle weighted wacky hooks, and they're not ideal in situations where you don't necessarily have the depth or need it to get down a little bit faster. Like if they're like in like 4 or 5 feet, something like that, weightless is great. That's no problem. But if I'm throwing like, let's say I'm throwing a heavy spinner bait deep and I'm just running it through, and I miss a bite, that weighted wacky is going to be great because it's going to get down there a little bit faster, but it's going to have that action where it's fluttering on the way down. Binney says, idea of a follow-up bait is because they opted out of the first bait. Or it could be that you fucked up the hook set. That's the other thing, too. Sometimes they didn't even make the decision. They were just like, or maybe you had it on the wrong rig, the wrong combo. And you're like, oh, I got a bite. And then you go and, that hook point wasn't far enough in the plastic and they just had the tail. Something like that. He says, go opposite because they didn't want the jig. Fair enough. Oh, man. What a show. What an amazing show this week, guys. There is fishy shit coming. That was an amazing live well segment. Thanks to all of our callers for calling in, asking questions, submitting some stuff. Thanks, Matt. That tip was great. Hopefully, you guys can dial that in on the 30th when we have our next slot limit tournament because that's going down and it's going down with the significance. I'm going to be wrapping this sucker up, but I will have some content for you on the Jigs and Bigs YouTube channel coming probably early next week. Once I finish this week fishing Thursday and Friday, I'm going to have an idea of what I've got for footage, and then you'll see some stuff next week on the Jigs and Bigs YouTube channel. And Joe and I have to have a conversation about how we're going to start going through these JB certified stud entries. I've gotten a couple of DMs from folks saying, like, did I miss the drawing? Did I win? And what happened? It hasn't happened yet. I'm trying not to burden Joe with any of this stuff while he's dealing with what he's dealing with. So, keep those entries coming in because I have been adding them to the list, and we're going to go through and set this stuff up. It's not going to be anything major. I think what I'm actually going to do is try and get a way to get the ball rolling, and I'm going to have Joe go through and basically create a list, and then I'll go through with a second set of eyes and go like, okay, so these are all the ones that he likes. Cool. I'm going to pop these in. I agree with those. Great. We'll go for it. And then we'll be having a live going on very, very soon. And I'm stoked. I'm very stoked. Slot limit tournament for August is registration is at jigsandbigs.com. Go ahead and register for it now. And it is on August 30th. Yes, it is Labor Day weekend. We just kind of want to see how that's going to have an effect. If maybe we can get more people to come out and do it because it's a long weekend. Maybe they've got the ability, the free time to be able to do it, maybe make it happen. But it's going to be a good one. You're not going to want to miss it. A couple of other things that we have going on too. Yes, the 300th episode show is the 300th episode podcast will be coming later this year. Early next year, we are planning on doing a live in-person event with a live stream element. So that's the plan. I've made some calls. I've made some contacts regarding some tech so that we can make some stuff happen. I have to do like a little practice live stream with this switcher to get comfortable with it. I'm really looking forward to it. I think you guys are really going to enjoy it too. It's going to be an absolute blast. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this sucker up, guys, because it's just been a day. We're going on about 4 o'clock now. I have to work in a little over an hour. And then I'm going to be heading back up to New Hampshire later this week, and hopefully I can get on some really big quality fish at Winnipesaukee. We'll see what happens. But in the meantime, you guys have yourself a good one. Make sure to tag us in your photos on Instagram. Tag us in your photos on Facebook. Let us show a little bit of love and support by liking, commenting, sharing, all that stuff for your content as well. We know that we have the best listening audience in the world, and we appreciate you way more than you guys realize. We will see you in 7 days with more fishy content from Jigs and Bigs. On behalf of myself and the absent the last couple of weeks, who the fuck is Joe Brown?
Tits and ass.